Okay, well, we are, I believe, finally live. Welcome in, viewers. My understanding was that there was a little bit of a technical problem getting the tournament underway on playchess.com, but it is going. We have some games, as you can see there, and I am joined this fine Illinois morning by National Master William Aramil. William recently represented the United States, actually, in a similar international friendly match. So, for those of you who aren't aware, the United States faced Ireland just 2 short weeks ago, I believe, Will. And in that match, we won. We emerged victorious, and it was in part thanks to Will's last round save against his opponent. Sort of caught the full point and brought Team USA home to victory. Will, maybe let's start there. Before we get into too much detail about the games, what is your mindset as a player going into an international friendly match like this?
I mean, bring it for the team. That's step number one. I think sometimes when players play in things like this, they think, okay, I'm just going to, focus on my board and do my thing. But the problem is sometimes when you play with that mindset, if you do come down to one of the final games, if you don't have enough flexibility with your position, you might not be able to play for a win or for a draw. So one thing I've learned, there's a sort of a secret in these team matches, especially if your matches might come down to the end, is you play in a style where you can play for two results. So you should never really just go all in and then not have an option to go for a draw. So I think flexibility with your positions is great. Obviously, if you can just steamroll your opponent without any real effort, then go ahead and do that. But I think for
Solid
team
chess
match,
advice there.
that's a secret.
Right, yeah, chess secrets with William Aramil.
Yeah, I mean, coaching some state championship high school teams, as well as playing on amateur Team North teams that have tied for first. So I know about the team dynamic for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I think you're right. As we saw how important that was in our match with Ireland, it came down to the wire. There were two games still going, both yours and Akash's, and you might recall Akash had that at his disposal. He ended up sacrificing his queen back to ensure that he was only playing for two results, if you recall that game. The position was very wild. He actually won his opponent's queen, but there was compensation, and he made that decision to play for the team and make sure that he was getting at least half a point out of that game. So very good
Yeah.
advice.
And even though we didn't communicate about anything mid game, knowing that he was a board one of a high school team, and they were playing for state titles, they were always close. And so I knew him as being a captain. He was well aware of the team dynamic and the situation, and I assumed he knew too. So he even told me after the fact that, oh yeah, like I was pretty confident you were going to win that game. So he knew at the end all he needed was a draw, because that's why we kept looking. I would kind of peek in at his game just to make sure. And
Right.
I think it would be irresponsible for someone not to pay attention, especially towards the end of a match. I mean, early on a match, there's too many variables. You can't
Right.
really
Sure.
predict anything. But I think losing quickly and then playing and sacrificing pieces and playing wildly, that's usually a selfish way to play from a team perspective. If you're going to play in a solo tournament, sure, but I think you have to kind of lean towards more solid positions for the aspect of the team, just generally speaking. Not, but sometimes you can't force the style upon a player.
Right. Well, I see we've got a game up here already, but before we get to that, let's quickly, for our viewers, review the match format that we're playing today against Romania. This is a very large match. There are 30 total players. In each age group, there are 3 players in each age and gender. So, for example, in the under 18 age group, there's an open section, so under 18 open, and an under 18 girls section. 3 players in each, so 6 total players for each team. Under 16, there's a U16 open and a U16 girls, so again, 3 players for each, 6 players for each team, and so on and so forth. So it's actually a 30 board match, and each individual match is decided. It's a 2 game match, game in 15 plus 10-second increment. So the first person to get to 1.5 points wins the match, 1.5 or more. Of course, you could also have 2. You could win the match that way. A 1-to-1 match is considered a tied game or a draw. So that's our match format we're playing with today. And let's get to the games. Will, what have you got up first here?
Okay, well, you're gonna have to give me a moment to kind of adjust to the play chess names. So right now we have Dennis AA or Triple AB versus Queen X G7 Mate. So Queen X G7 Mate, that is the well-known WIM Akshita Gorti, representing the U18 girls section, versus oh, there we go. That makes it easy. Denisa Andrea Bukur.
And yeah, as you mentioned, this is the U18 girls section. It looks like we've got, what was this, a Slav, a Queen's Gambit? Looks like a Slav maybe, huh?
Yeah, well, so this is our position so far, and we have the surprising move A6 in this position. Not your standard move. I want to say nowadays, the main move that top grandmasters will choose is Bishop E7. Not to say that there's anything wrong with the move Knight F6, but that does allow the popular exchange variation. So Knight F6, take, and Bishop G5. So a lot of top players opt for Bishop E7 to avoid that line. But A6, okay, this is interesting. I've seen it before, but definitely probably throw off Denisa from her prep. So seems like a practical choice from Akshita's.
Yeah, a move that's very useful in a lot of different situations, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, now with the early exchange on D5, okay, I mean, what's A6 going to do? Because usually with A6, B5, and a pawn on D5, the bishop doesn't really want to go to B7. So it's interesting. I don't know what the use of it will be just yet, but we have, I guess, more interesting fireworks on the next board. This is a very tame game, but already I'm looking at this game between, what is this? So we have George Stolaru versus Ben USA. I think I know who this is. Okay, this is our top board overall,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with our highest rated players. So this is a great game to pull up. And you know that whole thing about team dynamics and not playing wild chess? Well, it looks like we have a wild position right away.
Yeah, what on earth? How did we get here?
I guess this is what happens when you have two heavyweights going at it. There's just going to be some fireworks. All right, so let's see. Knight C6, and I should probably do this. Let me get rid of this for a moment. So we have a Ruy Lopez, or the Spanish game, and I like the situations where you can just play with more flexibility. Taking on C6, I'm not a huge fan. Okay, and D3. All right, so let me kind of fast forward to some of the critical parts of the game. So this is kind of interesting, right? To take with the F pawn, usually you want your rook on F1.
Right.
And one of the problems, you know, as kind of playing these structures myself with white recently, is that even though it's nice and it looks like you can have a lot of activity, one of the problems is it becomes hard to play D4. And as long as black doesn't take on D4, black can sometimes build pressure on E4 or even take it. So the pawn structure, it's interesting, but it does have its flaws in the long run. So.
Yeah, remember the doubled E pawns are one of those classical like plus and minus situations, right? You know, you have doubled pawns, your pawn structure is a little inflexible because of that. But on the other hand, you're also controlling a lot of central squares for the long term of a game, you know. But as you're noticing here, yeah, okay, I'll let you take us through it. So how did we get from doubled E pawns and things are closed to, oh my gosh, the king's on F1?
And here's the thing, black says, I don't care if you undouble those pawns, essentially because white's pieces are a little bit more conservatively placed. So after takes, it looks like black is at least equalized here. And white has lost a lot of like flexibility with these pawns, already pushed to C, D, and E3. So now E4, and then black just does the right thing here. So again, now, you know, we are using the Play Chess server, so if you haven't used it before, which I'm sure most of you haven't, if you know how to look at games while going over them, God bless you.
Help us out in the chat for sure.
But I haven't figured that one out yet. Of course, you know, I know how to use chess.com, Lead Chess, more of the popular sites, but this is a little bit of a struggle in that respect. Yeah, so after take and queen b6, already the b2 pawn is falling. And it looks like white's setup just wasn't ideal. Now, maybe if a rook was already on e2 to guard the second rank, it would be okay. And then again, while moves are being played, it resets. So I wish there was some analysis version of this. So interesting. After knight g4, you're threatening mate on f2 as well as the b2 pawn still.
Right.
So I mean, what is white supposed to do there?
I mean, queen d2 is the only move that even comes to mind, but
But then rook d8 maybe.
yeah, and where do you put the queen then? Queen e2,
Yeah, and then
knight f4.
Yeah, exactly. Queen e2, knight f4. That's what I saw. And you're in a world of hurt at that point.
I think white is just in a world of hurt here, right? No matter what.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. So queen c2, and
did he have queen b3 there? Probably not, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
queen b3, knight e3,
queen e2.
Yeah, but then knight f4 again is just the killing move, right?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do here? That's crazy. Takes.
So I guess you're supposed to give the exchange, yeah. But now black is simplifying, right?
Yeah, I think this is this should be a wrap. I mean, it is a 15-minute game, so anything can happen. But I mean, black has more space. They're up to exchange, and white's king is in trouble. I mean, the only saving grace for white is probably the fact that it is a rapid game, but I expect the resignation button to be to hit sooner than later.
What's the joke, right? It's up in exchange and has positional compensation, right?
Yeah, it's usually not good.
No, not good at all.
I mean, it looks like one of the rooks to d8 is pretty much coming on the next move, and then.
Well, right now I'll take it if you go one of the rooks to d8.
Ah, yes, that's true.
Or no, maybe I won't, right? Because it's a deflection. One of the rooks to d8, queen takes d8. You have the intermezzo move. Don't forget about knight g2 intermezzo. Or
knight
queen.
No, queen e3 doesn't work because of knight e3, but.
Or knight, yeah, that's a minor technical difficulty, hanging the queen. It's okay. You're suffering from the commentator's wake-up curse. I don't know if you caught any of our Ireland match. I hung my queen 3 or 4 times in analysis variations within the first 20 minutes of the show. But then I woke up and I started putting out like some good analysis at some point.
In fairness, my eyes haven't adjusted to.
Yeah, here we go. We're gonna see it.
But see, my instincts were right. But
if
the
queen
thing
d8, knight g2. What's that?
No, just knight g2 and then
knight
rook
g2.
d8, right?
Yeah, right. So the intermezzo move is very important to remember. If he takes the rook, then knight g2, and here he's hanging his queen. Yeah, because if bishop takes knight d3, so this is resigns, right? He's hanging his queen. If king takes, queen takes f2, and if bishop takes knight d3, and that's good night.
Yeah, and you know what? I will stand by my first prediction that I said the resignation button will be hit sooner than later. Yeah. And it looks like, yep, and it's already, boom, resigns.
Wow, so, that's an early point to Team USA.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm telling you, too, being part of high school team chess as a player for 4 years and as a coach for, I'm trying to think, how long have I coached? So, as a coach for high school chess, I've done it for about 12 years now. So, I think when a top board loses early, it kind of sets a tone for the team. And one of the issues is now it's like, oh man, our top board lost. And now some of the other boards might get more confidence. And now Romania already feels like their back is against the wall. And I know it's just one game, but when the top board goes down, sometimes the ship goes down with the captain.
The other way around, I think. The ship doesn't go down with the captain. Oh, wait. No, you're right. This works for chess, right? Normally it's the captain goes down with the ship, but we have to switch it because top board is the captain, right? So the ship goes down with the captain.
One way or the other, they're both going down.
No, that was good. That was good. I like it.
All right.
So we can't actually update our match score yet because that's only 1 point, and you need 1.5 to win. So this scoreboard here that you see on your screen will get updated once we have a match win, not a game win.
So I'm going to do this, Pete. I'm going to move this around just for a moment so I can keep my screen up.
You're destroying my beautiful layout here.
Hey, man. You know what? Let's pull up this game with Volcano Explorer. This is Aydin Turgut, the top board of the U16. Let's see. I'm going to get rid of this game since that game ended. And let me get to the next game. So this is a match between, let me pull it up. So again, Volcano Explorer, black, that is Aydin Turgut from also Illinois. And he is up against FM Mania Inut Ognian.
So I'm glad you pulled up Aiden's game. I actually used to coach Aiden a long time ago before he became way too strong and is a devastating attacking player and annihilating everybody now. But Aiden was one who never missed a tactic. He was remarkably sharp tactically. So here he's sacking an exchange, it looks like, and walk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, already you know that black has to have all the fun here. And one of the issues immediately, it's not even a sacrifice at this point because
No, yeah, you're right.
after the pawn takes the rook, it's just pawn takes d4, and then the knight and bishop are forked. So black is going to have two pieces for the rook. And I should mention that Aiden, he's also part of the National Blitz League, which is held by um, Daniel Jones and Nathan Kelly and the Chicago Chess Blitzers. And basically, he was a recent add-on, and he just played a playoff blitz match.
Oh, really? Who was his opponent? Do you recall?
Yeah, his opponent was William Grafe, who goes to the U of Chicago, but he's from New York. But they played a match, and I believe the score was 6-4. I'm almost positive, and I think that happened it happened Wednesday or Thursday night.
In whose favor? In whose favor?
It happened in Aiden's favor, so he won 6-4. And by the way, him winning that, his team barely won the playoffs, and I believe the final score was 35-33. And
Wow.
there's a 2-point bonus for winning the match for your team. So you see that if he lost one of the games, it would have made it an even score, but then the other team would have won with the. Actually, what would have happened there? Maybe it would have. No, I thought if it ended in a tie, the other team would win. But long story short, I know that he's sharp right now. He's been playing more often, and I saw that how he was playing bullet. He was calculating very fast,
Right.
and he is definitely he's already erupted.
Is this now? I have a question. Is this game over? Did White resign here, or is White just in a long think, trying to see if there's any counter shot? Like
That's what I'm wondering. I'm checking my internet connection. It looks good. It says connected. But what about his opponent? Are they connected?
I mean, I see the clock moving.
There
Okay,
we go.
There's
Now
the
get
move.
the move. And I think it was just one of those things where he realized that it's game over.
Was D5 not playable back in the position after Rook F3? Was D5 not a move?
I think
Just to get out of that nasty fork, right? So D5 hitting the knight. Maybe you go
Rook E3?
Rook E3 was my move. DC6 though, and the Rook and Knight are both hanging. Ah, but then you have
then
Rook
Rook
C3.
Yeah,
That's a cool line.
it's
That's a cool
amazing.
line.
And
The
you
Rook
still
is taking everything on the third rank. All the minor pieces on the third rank are being captured.
Yeah, it's funny. You still get two pieces for the rook any way you slice it. But I'd agree, though. I think that you need to play that way because in this situation, you're just left with a rook for two pieces and a weak king structure. And now the pieces will really be able to go after the king. So I think it's a bad practical choice for White to play in this way. So White should have definitely chosen what you said. Yeah, I just don't like what's going on here. So let me see what other types of games I can pull up. I think I found a good system here, Pete, where I can I don't minimize this entire board, but I can just move it a little bit. And let's see what else we got. And if you have any suggestions, you know what? Let's keep this in Illinois for a moment.
Okay. Who have
We're
we got
gonna
here?
go-
We've got two Illinois players playing. All right, I like it.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Dimitar Mardov. Now I've played him as well. Now let me go to this game. It lets me.
Now, as you're switching boards, our viewers are going to have a little bit of a borked view, but don't worry, we'll get back to the full screen mode in a second here.
Well, it won't. I'm clicking next board. It won't let me go to this game. It's only cycling the first two somehow.
You might have to drag that game over to the second position.
I'm trying.
And or close one of the...
I think that's what I really need to do. Okay.
There you go.
So now, interesting game here. So we have Dimitar Mardov versus Dragos Andrei Antonica. So
You're
Mardov.
doing great with these Romanian names.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, the Romanian team's probably watching, shaking their heads like, come on, not even close. It's okay. You see my last name. I'm used to it. I get that all the time.
Karagianis.
Very nice.
So yeah, Dragos Andrei Antonica. I think it's only appropriate, as being a chess master, chess player, I think you just have to get used to trying to pronounce as many names as possible.
Right.
Dimitar Mardov, that's a little bit easier. This is one of the top up and coming players. I don't even know how old he is. It says under 16, but what is he? Maybe 13 or 14, something like, or 15 maybe. I don't know how old he
I
is.
think he's under 16.
Yeah, well, I know that. Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
crystal.
Hashtag deep analysis.
Uh, I remember actually our mutual friend, National Master Gopal Menon, and myself, we taught at one of those Warren Scholar camps in Illinois. We played a blitz tournament, and I had to play him in one of the final rounds. And I was winning the game. He like came back, and I just used my experience to come up with a little trick. But the next time we played in an over the board game, again, I had a positional advantage. I actually won a few pawns, but apparently that wasn't good enough to win. It was only good enough to draw. So definitely he has a bright future in front of him. And I mean, look how strong he was. He spotted me 2 pawns and I could barely draw him. So there you go.
What do you think about his position here? So this is interesting. Both colors, white and black, have a passed pawn. Dimitar, of course, the C pawn. White with the passed D pawn. The D pawn is blockaded. The C pawn's not going anywhere anytime soon. White has the 2 bishops. What do you think? What's going on here? Who's got the better half of this?
Now, of course, I will be rooting for USA and Dimitar as white, but I definitely have to prefer black here. And the biggest issue is the bishop on b2.
Okay.
So when you look at any position, you just say, all right, what pieces are good, what pieces are bad? Black has no bad pieces. And to me, these knights on b6 and d5 in a way neutralize the bishop on g2. At least they're on par with the knight and bishop. But the bishop on f8 will definitely be better than the bishop on b2. And then black will have potential ideas like bishop to b4 and c3,
right,
and which will further weaken the d4 pawn. And then, both pawns are isolated, but I also think that black has a easier time of targeting this pawn after playing c3 at some point. But I think, Dimitar, as I mentioned in the Chicago Open where I played him and I couldn't win at one position, he is one heck of a fighter. So I'm not going to count him out here at all.
I'm wondering, is knight b4, do we have to do something about knight b4 right now? Because I don't want that knight landing on d3, right? So is black sort of making a mini threat to go knight b4, queen somewhere, knight d3? I guess white doesn't believe he is. Or of course, in this position, knight b4 is probably answered by bishop takes c8, knight takes c2, and you go from there.
Yeah, which kind of makes me wonder, even back here, was knight c4 not possible? Actually, I didn't know whose turn it was when I was looking at this position. But what was wrong with the move knight c4? Knight b4, maybe?
Knight c4, knight b4 looks pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I was wondering, if you have to play a move like a3, which white does here, this is really not a move you want to play at all, I don't think. I mean, you're probably required to because you need to do something about knight b4 to d3. But on the other hand, right, as you were just discussing, the bishop on b2 is very limited. Now a3, in some situations, is a potential target. There's still the move knight a4.
But c4 is falling, right? I think, see, that's interesting. I was calculating this myself, like knight a4, rook c4 stuff. I'm wondering if there's combos with rook e5 and something like the bishop hanging on b2, but I don't think it quite works for black. Ooh, c3. I think this is the most ambitious move and almost what you have to try.
Right, because as you pointed out, I mean, my analysis was a little superficial, right? I was just worried about giving up some squares, but the c4 pawn was under attack. That's a problem.
Yeah, and leave it to Dimitar to kind of create a tactical mess out of this position.
Is that a new TV series, Leave It to Dimitar? Like Leave It to Beaver?
I don't know if anyone or if everyone really knows the Leave It to Beaver reference.
Probably not. That's like showing my age. Although, to be fair, I think I watched like reruns of it on like, Nick at Night or something? I don't know.
Ron Howard?
I don't know. I'm lost already.
That's the producer or director. I think he
really? The same guy who does all of those like movies, right?
Yeah, and I have to check.
All of those movies. That's just some great commentary there. Will, I'm a little interested that in this position, white played bishop c1, Was taking not possible? What was he worried about?
I don't know. I thought it was fine myself. Um,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
I
figure out
don't
what's
know.
wrong
Maybe
with
it's
just
a
taking
bluff.
that guy.
Hmm. I really want to know that. Let's go back for a second. And if anyone in the audience knows, they can let us know too.
What's wrong with what's wrong with taking that pawn there? Bishop c3, so let's start calculating. Bishop c3. Is there a rook takes e5 at the end? Bishop c3, knight c3, rook c3, queen c3, rook takes e5 at the end, and queen takes d1.
You're pretty sharp today.
Every now and then I can calculate a line. It doesn't happen very often. Right? So there's a pin along the d file which becomes discovered after bishop c3, knight takes c3, rook takes c3, rook takes c3, the queen comes to c3, unguarding the rook on d1, and then simply rook captures e5, picks up a whole piece if I'm seeing that correctly.
Yeah, and I wish I could analyze this, but maybe these are just some restrictions on play chess. If anyone following along actually knows.
Yeah, Will and I are not playchess.com users. Of course, today the match against Romania is being hosted in the Romanian club room on playchess.com, not chess.com, playchess.com, which is put out by is it the German company Chessbase? Is that right? I believe they're
That
German.
sounds right to me.
And we are not as familiar with their software. We tested it out, of course, and played around with it, but we can't find a way to show analysis variations or arrows. So today, users, you will be calculating in your heads with Will and I. Congratulations. Or you can do what I recommend my students do whenever they play through a book or a game on an online database, which is whip out your chessboard and follow along. I suppose,
Yeah,
Will, you could use that beautiful demo board in the background there. Taking it truly old school.
I'm not so comfortable, outside of computers nowadays. I kind of forgot how to use those. I mean, welcome to 2020. And
would we be
also,
the first ever chess streamers to actually use a demo board on the stream? I think we probably would, right?
that'd be an interesting idea, but I'm sure it's been done before.
Yeah, it's probably been done. Look at this move by Dimitar, just really nice, keeping on the pressure. He just says, okay, I'm going to go queen takes a3. What are you going to do about it?
Well, Dimitar's white here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was reading the names wrong. Okay, so Dimitar in a little bit of trouble then, right? Because what are you going to do about queen takes a3?
But like I said, he is a resilient fighter. Every time I've seen him play, I mean, he's tough to crack. So you can't play a4, knight a4, right?
You still can't take c3 because that same tactic we just discussed is there.
I'm wondering about some ideas like queen h5 and just bailing out. It might be too...
Trolley Polly in the chat is asking, what's the score right now? Trolley Polly, we don't have all of the match scores at the moment. I do not believe there has been a single decisive match yet. I have asked our chief TD from the US side to text me the moment there is a decisive match. We're also following along with the results on Play Chess. I do not yet see any decisive matches. We do know that on board 1, a game we were following, USA won the first game. So I believe that is actually the only decisive game even so far, if I'm seeing this correctly. Yeah, I don't see any other decisive games just yet. So there is no match score at the moment. USA has one decisive game in its favor. That was board 1 in the under 18 section. International master Ben Lee managed to win his game for Team US. And that is the only decisive game. Games just started about 20 minutes ago. So, Will, we should be getting into some time pressure crunches here. Are there any games that pique your interest or that you pick up on? Dimitar is into full defensive mode here, it looks like. He goes rook a2, which is not a move you want to make. As my old coach would say, the rook is babysitting the pawn.
This is the thing. When you're in these time pressure situations, just tidy defense, keep it hard for your opponent, make it difficult, and then sometimes your opponent falls in that a trap of time pressure, and then they blunder. So there's that game. And then if we go back to Volcano Explorer, or Aiden, we see that he has a nice blockade. The two knights are very powerful, and I think he should seal the deal. I think he's a pretty good blitz and bullet player. So especially with the increment, I think it makes it a little bit easier.
Is this still game one? Is this still game one in Aiden's event?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay, because Aiden early on made a very nice rook takes f3 move, and then
It's the same game.
okay, all right.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let me see what else is in progress. The only one that I see so far, according to what I see, is that that Ben won that first game. Oops. Screen sharing stopped. Welcome. Oh boy. Let me try to pull up some games again.
Will, whatever you have done, please never do that again.
I mean, that I just went into a different room somehow when I tried to open the games. But give me a second here. It's not the end of the world. We'll get back. Don't worry. I promise. We can get back to those two games. How's that?
Nope, you're gonna have to reshare.
Oh, my bad. No problem. No problem. We adapt on the fly. How's that?
Now we're back. Okay, and please, please do not click said buttons again. Now we're back. We're back. I see the Dimitar game, correct?
Yeah, so we're still back here. I don't know if there are any other games that you might want to head to. This is the top game in the U16, and this is, I think, one of the top games in the U16 as well. I'm going to pull up my list for a second here. Yeah, so those are the top two games in the U16 section.
There's actually a really interesting game if we can go to it. It's Christian Serban versus Tougher Guy. I'm gonna look up who exactly Tougher Guy is. That looks like it's Shelev Oberoi versus Christian Serban from Romania. Do you see that game?
Give me a second here. I'm going to have to minimize this like this. If it's going to let me, I'll just move it like that. Okay. All
really,
right.
what
Yeah.
looks to be the makings of a really sharp endgame here.
I found it. How about that? Good?
We're good. So yeah, look at this. The queens just came off literally one move ago. Mamarelli is correcting you here. William Aramil. Ron Howard was born in 1954. Leave It to Beaver ran on TV from 1957 to 1963. Ron Howard was 3 years old when that program began. So your information, there's a disconnect here because I don't think Ron Howard was directing TV shows at the age of 3, unless he was some kind of child prodigy.
Hey, leave me alone. I'm 34 years old. Obviously, I wasn't even born then. So leave it to me to give you wrong facts about shows that were airing before I was born.
Chess knowledge on point. 1950 TV series knowledge not on point. Murfinski, good question. We're looking pretty good. So far, there's only been one decisive game from what I can tell, checking the results. We are using the playchess.com server today, which is really a little difficult to navigate. But from what I can tell, the only decisive result is in favor of Team USA. On board one, Ben Lee won his first game. Okay, I take that back. We have a couple more board results. Board 10. Blue Queen 20. So let's find out who that is. That is Anne-Marie Valet from the USA. She lost her game to Alessia Mihalia from Romania. Board 12 was also a loss for Ashley Pang of Team USA. Lost to Maria Angel from Romania. So at the moment, the board score is 1 point in favor of Team USA on board 1. 2 points in favor of Team Romania on boards 10 and 12. I'll try to keep those updated as best I can as we get results coming in. Will, what's happening in this endgame here?
Yeah, I mean, I would already say that without doing much calculation, you would want to prefer the side with the knights because the bishop doesn't have a lot of scope and there are pawns on the same color.
That G pawn though.
The problem with generalities, I have a saying for this. The problem with generalities is you lose for specific reasons. So you can't.
Ah, wow. That is like next level, extremely meta.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there are people that know every chess saying in the world. They know all the concepts, but they'll lose because they can't find exceptions in the position. They won't make this move because it doubles their pawns. They won't make this move because it weakens the king. But chess is a very detailed and specific game. So I
I,
think at the end of the day, the results will speak. So
Speaking of which, I'm completely confused at this bishop f1 move. Is this a mouse slip? Like what? I didn't get it. I mean, there was a3, there was rook take e5,
no.
even
He
rook
actually,
f5.
it was a capture.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought he just moved bishop f1. I was very confused.
No, but this is pretty strong. Rook, wow, rook h8. I'm wondering about like rook e5 and rook f5 type stuff.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, even rook f5 first and a3 might be a move. Although rook f5, there's king g6, right?
So maybe a3 right away.
a3, rook h1, then rook f5, but then there's knight d3 check at the end of that because the bishop remains pinned.
No, I think no. After a3 of rook h1, I think in the spirit of the game, you just take the knight and then you allow that capture. And then the thing is, black's pawns on e5 and e4, those are just like one pawn. So I think I would gladly go into that endgame as a failsafe. So if I didn't have enough time to calculate, I think just a3 is the move. That's what I would play for white here. I think you eliminate all the tactical chances for black, and then if you can force a trade with your bishop, that's even better.
Late Pawn is saying for some reason all the games started except my game. Late Pawn, I assume you are a player for Team USA or Team Romania maybe. You should use the playchess.com server chat to communicate with your TDs. Unfortunately, we are not the TDs. Yeah, you were right. Look at this. We're seeing that variation that we just had discussed, where the knight comes under attack, and white just says, "Go ahead and take my bishop." This rook and pawn endgame. My gut instincts are telling me this rook and pawn endgame should be a win for white. There's enough weaknesses in the black camp that white should be able to pull this off. Although, hold on, there's rook f2 to e2.
Ooh, nice. But I think white is playing or pressing for the win. And I know I was talking about kind of the spirit of team games and how to approach. And another thing I used to tell players that I would coach, I would say, hey, just remember, in any situation where there's a tight team match, remember, a draw doesn't hurt the team, right? So kind of, again, it's going back to playing for those two results, playing for a draw, for a win. So I think white going for this endgame route is not only a good practical choice on the board, but also for the team. Because when you think about it, if you get a draw in your game, it's not disturbing the balance. But when you lose a game, now that's another point you have to make up. So that's a 1-point swing each and every time, as opposed to getting a draw. So I think players, we have some young players and maybe not the most experienced players from a team perspective. So it's just something to keep in mind when they play their games. Again, I've been part of team chess for 16, 17, maybe actually 17 years as a coach and player combined. So I've seen a lot of this stuff, a lot of these situations where players don't know what to do. So yeah, rook e1, and that's kind of what you were talking about, Pete, just keeping the pressure.
Yeah, rook f2 to e2 was I think a must for black to try to stay in this game, because now what's happening, although I would have left the rook on e2, I don't like the move rook e1. And I'll explain why in a moment. What's happening is the white rook is becoming passive, and here's exactly why. You're going to hit the rook, now there's going to be king c2. Maybe he wants a draw with just rook back to e1, but what white will play is any move that's not king d2 here. Like king c3 jumps out, pawn c5 might even be a move. So this is not a draw by repetition for black. I would have kept the rook on e2 where it was very active, essentially keeping that king off of the second rank, so keeping the king away from your pawn e3 and not allowing this repositioning. And if you notice, the rook on g3 is very poorly placed for white, right? It's very poorly placed. It's blocking its own g-pawn and it's stuck defending e3. So I think the black rook was much better on e2, and what I was going to have recommended was some move like king e7, for example.
Yeah, it makes sense. But even despite White's edge here, I somehow predict a draw for that game. It's kind of going off on a limb. And Dimitar drew his game, by the way.
I mean, we have another decisive result, this one in favor of Team USA. So Aydin Turgut did manage to win his game for Team USA. Now I'm just pulling up our standings here to look and see. That's still not a decisive match score. Aydin Turgut is the top board in the U16 boys section. So Aydin Turgut defeats FIDE master Minea Yonet Ognan. Hopefully I pronounced that somewhat correctly. And again, still no decisive result yet.
So I'm going to move to the game that I actually had first pulled up, which was the Denisa game versus Queen XG7 mate, which is, I believe, Akshita Gorti. And it looks like White's doing pretty well in this position. I think the A-pawn will be the problem. Maybe if Black can slow that down, they can get a draw. But I think Black is definitely playing for a draw with Denisa having all the perks of the position. I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but I think White will just bail out on the D and F pawns and just have to go for it.
With A6, right?
Yeah, so, okay, I like this move first. Good preparatory move, just King G3.
So the question is, are we in time to stop A7 and then Rook B8? So if Rook takes D4, there's A6.
I think you have to go Rook E4.
To get back to the back rank, right?
Yeah, Rook E4, A6, Rook A8, A7, then Rook E8 is the only option. But that's why I wasn't sure if
But then can I play? No, I can't. I was thinking I could play some move to get my other rook on the 7th rank. No, I just play Rook C7 there, and White should be winning this, right? Or is the D pawn, or no, the D pawn's not moving.
That's why I had a little hesitation, Pete. I was actually thinking instead of Rook A1, I was thinking A6. And then A7, and then the idea was Rook C7, and then Rook B7. So that way you can keep your A pawn there, and then you know the secret tactic there is you walk your king over, right? You walk your king over to maybe F6, and then you try to get that mate on the 7th rank with like a Rook G7, Rook H8, and a king on F6. So that's kind of what I envisioned in that whole line. You get your rooks on the 7th rank. The black rooks are passive. And you kind of
we're going to see that happen, I think, here. Yeah.
Say it again?
I think we're going to see that exact line happen here.
Well, this is already lost, by the way. Rook B8, Rook E8, Rook takes E8, and then just A8.
Right.
This is instant loss.
So that did not end well for Team USA. Something went very wrong. Although, honestly, I think the other position was lost as well because of the line you mentioned with the rooks doubling on the 7th rank. There's just nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I think tactically it might have just been lost. So... she tried her best there, but not so easy to come back from. Is there any other game that you're interested in, or maybe the chat? There's a game that they want to look into?
Yeah, chat. Is there a particular player you'd like us to have a look at? If not, Will, I'd say let's just cycle through those top boards again. Has Game 2 started with Ben Lee on board 1?
So I pulled up, so there's that Surfer or a Christian Serban versus Tougher Guy. That's still going on. The other game that I had pulled up was Rathia versus Andre Bulau.
Wow, this is an interesting one. So let's stay here for a minute. What is happening in this position? So these players are, let me just pull up who this is. This is Jason Liang, FIDE Master Jason Liang for Team USA as White in the under 18 boys section. Black is Andre Christian Bulau from Romania. So what is going on here? It looks kind of wild, although Will, you're gonna have to recenter the board. Black, yeah, okay, now I can see all the pieces. What is happening in this position? And obviously the pawn on F2 is a big thorn.
But what's going on with H4, H5? I'd imagine that Black should be better here. I mean, Black is just up a pawn, and it doesn't look like White can win the F2 pawn. And also, White's king feels a little bit more vulnerable.
Do we play something like Bishop E1? Idea maybe Knight F4 check? Although maybe just Bishop G6, you snap take?
I think Knight F4 check, you don't have to guard F2, because King F2 is not possible.
Right.
In view of Knight D3 or Knight H3, discovered check.
Now, why can't he go Rook F2 here? Is there going to be some Knight F4 and then Knight H3 or something like that? Why can't he go rook f2? Let's try to calculate that.
Yeah, that's interesting, for sure. Wow. Yeah, it looks like you might be right. I think they're just going to go knight f4.
So rook f2, knight f4, king f1, because if you go king g1, there's probably some nasty discovered check knight h3, right?
Yeah, knight h3 and you win an exchange will actually probably the game.
Actually, hold on. Rook f2, knight f4, king h1 even. There's no check. And your knight is pinned, so why can't I go rook f2? Again, is my question here.
It looks good to me. I just think...
this is why I wanted to play bishop e1, is because I didn't want to allow any of that stuff.
So maybe white's just considering this capture now. And was it a bluff or is it for real?
No, he's taking it. Yeah, he's just taking it. I don't understand why not bishop e1. I mean, maybe there was some tactic we overlooked, but bishop e1, the idea would be to pin down the rook, right? I mean, we just make the white rook very inactive on f1. Taking it out of the game for our bishop and pawn, essentially.
I totally agree with your move.
So now what? If knight f4 doesn't work, then white has just regained that pawn.
So here's a thought. So if knight f4, maybe king h1, I'm wondering if we can play some crazy idea like queen
knight
h5.
e2? Maybe there was knight e2. Okay, he's just trading. This is welcome to Drawville. I think we can safely pick another game. What do you think? Opposite color bishops. Every pawn is on, there's no passed pawns, no potential for creating one. Yeah, this is game 2. We need a win here to equalize the match. Let me pull these player names up again. So this is Anne-Marie Valet for Team USA versus Alessia Mahela, both women's FIDE masters. And we need a win. So black needs a win to equalize the match here. What's happening in this game?
Well, already the knight is attacking the bishop on h6, so black is trying to castle for sure. So I think black is fine in this type of position, unless white can get some attack going. But I feel that black is fine in this position. That's just kind of my sense. But are the dark squares going to be a little too weak? I don't know. And I'm trying to see who these are too. This is not easy. We have a list of a bunch of names. How many total games are going on?
There are 30 total games happening.
Wow, 30. Yeah. And then you have to combine all the names with the usernames.
Right.
A lot to keep track of for sure.
This is Anne-Marie Valet with black versus Alessia Mahela with white. Late pawn in the chat. Jugarul, the tournament director, is looking for you. So please, again, as I mentioned, communicate in your tournament room on playchess.com. Go back there, use the tournament room. They are looking for you there, not here.
So this is the U16 girls, and this is...
Will, while you're looking that up, I'm just going to catch the listeners up here on some more results. Board 14, Ninja Trick versus Andre Negrayan. Let's pull up who exactly Ninja Trick is. That is Rohan Rajaram, who also represented the United States at last year's Pan American Games, I believe. He defeated Andre Negran, so another point for Team USA there. We have another decisive result. Let me pull that up. I believe, that's one I already updated you on. Of course, Aiden Turgut won his game, but we already updated that one. So if you want to follow along for yourself with all of the results for both sections, I'm going to go ahead and pop the link out now into the chat. So this is a chess results page where you can follow along with all of the results. If you want to just go there to see the current match score, I'm putting this into the chat right now. Okay, there you go.
And it looks like Ben Lee took out George Stoleru. He won those 2 games.
He won both games already, so that's a point for Team USA. And then we have another decisive result in 2. I'm going to go ahead and update that match score now on our match score scene. So we have a full point for Team USA. Do you have that game up so you can show our audience here how that happened?
The Ben USA game?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's up right now.
Fantastic.
I was actually about to do that. We're on the same page, literally.
We are one mind, Will. We are one mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, it's like what do you call this? Not symbiotic quite, but all right. So we have a Bogo Indian. I think these lines are pretty solid for black, but it's not always easy to generate very active play. I think it's just more positionally based. Okay, so I'm going to kind of fast forward through this a little bit. It resembles a King's Indian, sort of a dry position. And it looks like George just may have blundered a tactic at the end. So not a bunch of things. Now, already I prefer white with the half open C file. And also you have to think about it. This bishop on h5 is not playing a key role in the game. So I think just the fact that white has the chance to go rook c1 and put pressure on c7, along with f4 and e5 breaks, white has all of the perks in the position already. So I'm not really sure where George may have gone wrong in this position, but I think just trading the pieces and playing in this dry manner wasn't helpful. Yeah, and this is why maybe taking on d4 isn't so strong in these positions. Mm-hmm. It's probably better to keep pieces on the board and play a move like knight e5.
Right.
You need to keep more chances. And then knight e5, maybe rook a d8 and c6, play in the style of sort of like a King's Indian. And then also this bishop on g4, it finds itself kind of misplaced. If it's not going to participate in the attack, you might as well have it on d7, for example.
Right.
So again, knight e5, and you might play c5 and knight f3, for example, and just create a weak d pawn.
Right.
Just to create some chances.
So. Also needing to equalize the match, making that trade sort of sterilizing the position a little bit, right?
Yeah, so I just think positionally wrong to take, strategically wrong to take based on the match score. So just the wrong move all around. But yeah, knight e5 for sure. So I think maybe what happens later on is just a product of him having less space and a poor light squared bishop. So that's interesting. Yeah, f5, I think that makes sense to try to enrich the position.
By the way, quick update on the match score. After the first round of games are nearly complete. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like 11 outstanding results. We have 19 completed games, if I counted that right, and one game that still has not started. We have 9.5 to 7.5 in favor of Team Romania right now, but the only decisive match score belongs to Team USA, which is, of course, our board one, Ben Lee, won his match. So the only decisive match score at the moment belongs to Team USA. After the first round's first 19, excuse me, it's only 17 completed games. 9.5 to 7.5 Team Romania. So, Will, where do you want to take us next? We're back, it looks like, on a game where Anne-Marie Valet needs to win to equalize, right?
What it looks like to me. And I think, she's just going to play for the W. Obviously, bishop d3, you want to keep the light squared bishop. And then I think h5, knight h5, rook h5.
I was going to ask, do you just snap h5 next move? Actually, no matter what color you are, do you snap h5 next move? If white goes bishop d3, does black go h5? Probably not, because bishop g6.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that, because after take, queen g6, king h8, knight g5 is
looks very bad, right?
It looks bad. I mean, queen e8, queen h6, maybe black survives. It just doesn't look right to me. I think maybe black might want to get the other knight involved, but yeah, I think
rook
this
e8 is another move.
Looks dangerous for black already.
Well, the good news, I suppose, is that this is, there's rook e8. The good news is very sharp position. So for a player, black here we mentioned, needs to win this game to equalize the match. She certainly has the type of position you want when you're trying to play for a win, right? I mean, it's very sharp. White has a lot of activity, a lot of stuff aimed at the black king. That's not very pleasant. But on the other hand, if black survives, let's say another 10 moves, there is an isolated pawn on d4, the white king has to decide where it's going to go. So, sharp position. I gotta say, though, I think I prefer white. In addition to the kingside pressure, you've got the two bishops on a fairly open board. Black still needs a couple tempi to get their knight and queenside rook involved in the game, at minimum. I don't know. I think I prefer white here. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely prefer white. I mean, I'm not even sure how black will defend the easiest way, but knight d7 and knight f8 definitely seem like the way to go defensively. And I guess it's just a matter of how white can probe on these light squares.
By the way, we have our second decisive match score. Okay, so maybe you can pull this completed game up because it must have finished incredibly quickly. On board 3, overall board 3, this is U18 section, Jason Liang wins his match. So the only match points, the only decided match points are in favor of Team USA. However, we are now down 10.5 to 7.5 in the first round. Round 2 here, we have 2 match points already. So is this the game? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, let's and don't forget to resize your board there.
I'm going to update the match score.
I thought it was Welcome to Drawville. How did white win this? Okay, the queenside pawns fell apart.
Ah, so maybe wow, so black definitely misplayed this game. So at this situation, after queen g3, I think they should have listened to your advice of bishop to e1. I mean, it definitely doesn't look like something you want to play, but at the same time, that f pawn, it's kind of like at a bare minimum drawish for.
So it looks like maybe black bailed out trying to just play for a draw, but the queenside A and B pawns were too weak, and he fell apart here, huh?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Let's follow it through. A very important match score because this means in the U18 boys section, Team USA has already scored 2 match points, and as I recall, the only outstanding match point is Aiden Turgid, or no, he's U16. Excuse me. So Christopher Shen is the outstanding match point there.
I mean, but what does black do here? This isn't very easy at all. I mean, you're just going to lose a6, and then c7's looking like a problem. I think you just have to bail out and go for those pawns somehow. I don't even know the best way to do that, quite frankly. I'm curious. Now,
yeah, how do you even attack them?
We've always had a thing where we don't really like to add the computer analysis, but I really want to know.
Can I play something like knight f7 here to go bishop c3?
But you're going to lose b5, right?
If I can pick up just one of the A or B pawns, maybe I can hold it. Oh, that's right in the middle of the board there.
No, I know. I'm just showing you. That's the analysis.
Okay.
And it looks like knight g4, but white is better. Maybe not winning, but it feels like black is trying to hold on for the draw.
Oh yeah, knight g4 makes much more sense. I was thinking you need to move the knight somewhere because the move you need to play is bishop c3. Right? You have to play bishop c3 to try to create some kind of a stink over there. If white is allowed to take both a6 and b5 while keeping a2 and b4, the 2 connected pawns, of course, will win. But if you can just pick off one of the queenside pawns, that's all you need, right?
Yeah.
To maybe hold this? Question mark, question mark. Of course he was unable to. Will, I'm really curious what's happening. I don't know if you can pull it up, if you have it on your screen or not. Can we check out the number 2 overall board, which is CYS 9772, so CIS 9772 versus Mircea Talu? Can we pull that up? Do we have that? Do you have that?
It was highlighted already. Perfect.
Fantastic. Okay. This is the number 2 overall board, and their first game just finished. Aha, and it is a win for Romania. Okay, so Mircea Talu does finish the job. And now...
Okay, that's a long game. I don't know if we'll be able to cover all of that, but...
Yeah, maybe we can just look at the decisive moment. What that means, of course, is that Christopher Shen, FIDE Master Christopher Shen from Team USA, needs a win to equalize that match point in round 2 here.
That was just game 1, huh?
That was just game 1. Yep.
Wow. I think because of the 10-second increment, along with the very long game, I think it was what? Like 88 moves is what I saw?
Yeah,
or 90? 89 total moves. So just imagine all those 10 seconds being added on.
Yeah.
Those moves. And you could have a whole nother game. Yeah, and it makes sense here. I think this is just a product of white trading a bunch of pieces, and it comes down to having a bad bishop. I think this is what basically ends up happening, is that the dark squared pawns kind of form a blockade on this bishop.
Knight on e4 as well is restricting it.
Yeah, I mean, the knight on f3 just doesn't seem to be that great either. And the ultimate problem is, I think, Black can also target c4 before white can target the backwards b6 pawn. So just structurally speaking, it seems like black is just going to create long-term problems for white. Yeah, and that's kind of what I see here. I think positionally, it's very simple for me to see how black is going to win.
Right.
Even though there's nothing obvious, and it just kind of shows you that Mircea Talu, so that's his actual name as well as his account name. But yeah, I think he has all the advantages in the position. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. I think this is the way that you should try to play in team matches.
This is the way.
Say it again?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you're
Mandalorian quote for the Star Wars fans out there.
I haven't seen it yet.
Got to check it out. It's good.
I've seen all the Star Wars except that one, actually, I think.
So, Will, I have a bad news, good news situation here. The bad news is the score is tilting ever more lopsided in favor of Team Romania after one round of play. So Romania has 17.5 board points after one round with 3 games outstanding. Team USA only 10.5 board points with 3 games outstanding.
Oh boy.
Yeah, not good after round 1. However, round 2, the good news is this: there have only been 2 decided matches so far, and Team USA won them both. So there's a lot in flux. There's a lot up in the air. I think this is going to come down to, just like our match with Ireland, it's probably going to come down to the end. And also, just like our match with Ireland, it seems like Team USA has a penchant for doing this. We're ahead early, but it don't look good. we're ahead early, but it don't look good. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
we
know
have
what
a
to do.
flair for the dramatic, huh?
Yeah.
And I guess since I'm doing this along with you, it only seemed fitting that we have such a result. And it always makes sense, when you have players of similar ratings, similar ages, skill sets, all that. I mean, the math dictates that the more matches that you have, the closer to equal you'll get, right? That means there's the more games, less variability with overall score in the long run, at least according to ratings. Unless the ratings are just way off according to the federations. But I think it'll be close nonetheless.
So one thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just this game here. I mean, it's as much as I would like to talk about the technique, it'd probably take the whole broadcast to try to analyze this endgame. Long story short, though, I think time played a factor in this game, and then Black was able to create this weakness and eventually win this endgame. But I think it's the principle of 2 weaknesses. There's the pawn on c4, and there's these weak pawns here. And I think that's how Black was able to cash in, unless I missed something else here. But yeah, Black's able to create a pass pawn. And yeah, I'm not going to analyze the whole game just in the interest of time. But you can see how Mircea was able to bring home the full point.
So one board we haven't looked at, and I'm checking now to see if they've started their second game, is we have not looked at our top overall. And they have started their second game. Great. So maybe we can get this up on the screen. It's Ipoli 185 versus the Happy Farmer. This is the top overall girls board. So this is U18 girls board 1. Team USA playing black. The Happy Farmer is international master Annie Wang. Or Wang. And playing white in this game should be women's FIDE master Maruna Daria Lehasi. Or Lehachi. The C in Romanian, is it the C or is it the Chi? So this is the first game. Well, if you head back, you'll notice there's one in progress right now. There's one in progress, and we can pull up game 2, which is live, and that's a little more exciting position.
So same players?
Same players. It is on my screen. It's the 6th game down. Ipoli 185 versus the Happy Farmer.
No, this is the same one that pops up that says it's in progress.
I have a different game on my screen.
Let's see. Okay. Maybe it says draw already, but I'm not really sure what's going on. Okay. So is that what happened?
That's round 1. We want to go and check out.
Okay. Interesting.
So sort the games by result. So if you click on games, you might have to go, can I recommend you leave the room and go back into the room? So just pop up to tournaments 1 and then pop back down to tournaments 2.
Okay.
And that should refresh it for you, then hit games again.
But then that's when the screen share stops.
That's okay. We'll get it up there. Then you just hit games again, and it should be.
Yeah, let me go ahead and set this up and then reshare.
No problem. In the meantime, we'll get the scoreboard up there. They can see your lovely face.
You sure you see it, huh? I still don't. It's not reflected on my end at all. I can definitely see. All right, there we go. Finally popped up. All right, let me pull up another game too. Is there a second game you want to look at?
Yeah, let's check out Aiden's game again, and let's pull up 3. Let's pull out that one, Volcano Explorer, and Dimitar Mardov. So we'll pull up all 3. These are all crucial games. U.S. needs a point in all 3 of these.
All right, and let me go back to screen share. This is fantastic. I have to screen share every time. Okay. This is the nature of the beast and the beauty of technology and the beast part of the technology, right?
So we've got a Sicilian Khan here of some kind. No? Or maybe this was a Taimonov. How did we get here?
Yeah,
then again, some kind of
this is Annie, you said Wong?
Annie Wong, white versus... I'm sorry, I believe she is black. Yes, correct, she is black. Against Women's FIDE Master Maruna Daria Lahachi.
So yeah, this is the classical Sicilian variation. This is one of the Sicilians that I haven't really tried that much. Sometimes it can get into some Najdorf type positions, but usually it's independent. So well, there we go, A6, right? Queenside Castle, Bishop D7. And I'm not going to really speak on the theory. I will just say this. In most of the Sicilians, I do not like capturing early on D4. And it's not because I necessarily think it's a bad move, but I just think that it's hard to get more options later on. I like to keep more pieces on the board, and especially playing Sicilian positions, I think it's nice to have more chances for attacking and just more ways to pose problems for your opponent. And a move like knight d4, queen d4, it could be the theory, but I'm just not a fan of this early capture because I don't have as many chances to change or steer the direction of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So b5, king b1, and I mean, where is black's attack? I think that knight, it's more helpful in helping you attack. For example, like I'm a dragon player, so I would want chances to go b5, knight e5, knight c4, right?
Right.
And maybe break open that way. But
sitting on e8 does not look like the ideal way to try to get something going on the queen side.
Yeah, I would say knight d7 makes a little bit more sense. But okay, let's be objective here. Does black really have any attack?
Does black? No, I don't think so.
No. I think white has all the advantages.
Yeah.
And again, I think making that early trade, you really lose opportunities and you lose flexibility. So I mean, to me, that's just a general concept that I have in any Sicilian. I've played the knight, or if I played the dragon, I don't like trading that knight early on.
So I wonder if we go back a move. Let's go back to the d5 push. Did black just overlook that e5 was possible? Because it seems like you absolutely do not want to allow e5 here. And the point is, after d5, e5, you cannot take it because there's bishop f4 trapping the queen, right?
Yeah, that's a good observation. I just thought that it was a gambit, and I thought white would just roll the f-pawn. But yeah, so for the viewers at home, after e5, queen e5, bishop f4, and that's a bye-bye queen.
Right. And I wonder if that... I mean, I certainly would not want to allow pawn e5 in this position, so I wonder if that was an oversight. I mean, maybe it was all part of the plan, but sometimes you phantom think that you have the square under control because that queen is backing it up, and then all too late you realize, oh, actually I can't even capture that. I've certainly fallen into that problem in a blitz game or two.
Yeah, so I think white is just strategically better here. I mean, probably borderline even winning strategically. White has a much better bishop compared to its counterpart on d7. And then I think white should be able to steamroll with moves like f5 and f6 down the line, right?
And where is that knight, really headed? The knight from e8. How does it find its way back,
Yeah, I think black just has two bad minor pieces.
By the way, we have another decisive result. So let me see if this is a match point. Board 9. This is not a match point. This is going to be a half point. Shelev Oberoi lost his first game to Christian Stefan Serban. I think we had that on the stream for a little bit, but he won game 2 to equalize the match. So we now have another match score update we can put up on the screen for our viewers, and it's going to be 2.5 to half point, basically.
All right, so is there anything you want me to pull up right now?
Nah, go with it. Pick one of those top boards. Aydin Dimitar, one of the games we've checked in with already. These are all crucial games because, again, as I mentioned, the U.S. is way behind after the first round. The match score is a little deceptive right now that you're seeing on your screen. U.S. has a 2.5 to a half point lead, but we are way behind on a lot of boards. After the first round, the final first round score, there's actually a couple games still going from round 1, but it's 17 to 11 in board points. Not
when we talk about the score, are these matches going to be based on just their age groups or just overall score?
I believe it's just overall score. So it's 30 so for the users who are just coming in, 30 total boards. And I posted the results link in chat so you can see all 30 boards and who's playing who. 30 total boards, 3 per age group per gender. So 3 U18 boys, 3 U18 girls, 3 U16 boys, 3 U16 girls, all the way down to U10. That adds up to 6 players per age group, 3 boys, 3 girls, 30 total players overall. So to win the match, you need to win 15 matches and get a draw, basically. You need 15.5 points to win the match. 15.5 match points, not board points, match points. Right now, USA leads 2.5 match points to a half match point, but we're very concerned, of course, because after the first round of play, Team USA was down 17 to 11 with 2 outstanding games.
Okay, we love the comeback story. So
we love the comeback story.
I think somehow being in the back seat, we are in the driver's seat because that's where we're used to being.
That is some really bizarre logic. Being in the back seat, we are in the driver's seat.
Yeah, because we know. All right, here.
Spoken like a true Cubs fan, Will.
Well, I'm not a Cubs fan. So
I know. That's why I'm surprised.
Don't hit me with Cubs fan logic right now. I'm a Chicago White Sox fan, and when Cubs fans say, "Oh, look at us, we've won," I said, "Well, here, we won in '05," and then you're like, "You know what? That's a great idea." And then it took over a decade to repeat that. But anyway, enough about the Cubs trying to copy the White Sox success. I think Mardov, this game, right? It was a draw. Dragos versus Mardov. Game 1 ended in a sort of non-violent draw. But this is really wild. I don't know.
Can Mardov survive this?
I mean, what do you think of this game?
I'm very worried. I'm very worried if I'm black here. I'm very concerned because what do you do? Okay, so if queen takes d3, queen e1 check, and rook g5.
Man, look at Dimitar. That's great, and it's all about the counterplay.
Right, because if you sit back and try to stop those pawns, you're going to get annihilated.
Now, the one thing that black has that's okay is that it's not easy to play c6 because b6 will fall.
But you go b7, then you go c6, then you go c7, and black is resigning. So, okay, let's calculate, though. There are 2 moves, I think. Queen takes d3, I think we rule out because queen e1 check, king g2, rook g5 looks like more trouble than white is interested in. Although maybe, as you pointed out, there's some specific there that I'm missing. I don't think so. So the 2 moves for white to consider here are rook c4 and rook c1. What do you think?
If you have to play rook c4,
rook c4,
I just think it's a great move by Dimitar. Great practical choice, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Just seeing him play, it's just he knows how to just keep it alive. Just a young fighter, and I don't know what to do here. Rook c4. I think one of the problems.
Maybe you have to keep pressure on e1.
Yeah, maybe queen a3 potentially. I'm not sure.
Because then there's d2 and queen takes f3 if you take on d2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other idea. And then white could get those pawns rolling, but you always have to watch out for ideas like rook g5 and
Yeah, there's rook
queen
c4.
g2.
So now queen. Let's see, queen a3 or queen. Is there a better square for the queen? Like, do I go queen b2 and rook g5, for example?
Yeah, I was just calculating that. I think queen b2. Oh, and Dimitar only has 17 seconds, so this is
Yeah,
another
tough choice. He goes a5. He's keeping an eye on the e1 square. So again, queen takes d3, queen e1.
This is a good practical choice because in the event white goes c6, he can just go queen b6. If b7, he can go queen c7 and blockade. And
rook h5.
Queen on c7 could allow rook h5 as well. So, and hitting h2. So that queen can serve a dual purpose on that diagonal. I think this is very interesting. I would be very interested to see what a computer would say at this point. I'm not going to pull it up, just out of respect.
You don't want to play our favorite game, Evaluation Station? So we don't have to actually put it on the board here. But what do you think, queen? So you're calling queen c7 here, right?
Yeah, it's a dual purpose move, and you can keep pressure on both sides of the board.
I was just about to say, or do you go rook g5 first, and now queen c7 comes?
And this kid is so sharp. Look at this, great stuff. Now you can't even take on d3.
Queen a2 might be a threat here.
Queen a2 is lurking. Oh man, wow. I mean, white could be in trouble. See, this is the thing. I think white erred.
Well, hold on. Let's say I just go c6. You go queen a2. I go queen f1. And I say, where's the mate? I'm going to make 3 queens.
Then I go d2.
You go d2, so your threat is d1 queen, queen takes, and mate, right?
d1.
But maybe. Now, right, what I was going to point out is your queen on a2 is in the scope of my bishop on d5. So I play rook d4. And I'm covering the mate on d1. Or I'm sorry, I'm covering the queening square on d1, and I'm also attacking your queen on a2. And now keep in mind, in that position, I've got my pawn on c6. I'm ready to play pawn c7 as well. And once my rook captures the d2 pawn, everything is safe for my king. So I think white can brute force win this with pawn c6. Again, I'll say the line, pawn c6, queen a2, queen f1, and then if you try pawn d2 there, rook d4. Now, pawn d2 is not forced. You may have some other shot. But I'm just going to push the pawn.
Maybe if you go like pawn c6 or something, I'm wondering about... No, queen b6 doesn't work. So, first of all, I don't have
pawn
to go
d2? Hold on, that's a good idea. Queen b6 might be a much better move. Pawn c6, queen b6, and then I'm threatening d2 and queen coming... Ah, look at the difference. Look at the difference. If I play d2, you don't have rook d4. Because my queen on b6 is covering that. Right? Pawn c6... queen b6, and the threat is pawn d2, and there is no rook d4. I like that. That's a much better move. What were you worried about?
So you might even go queen f. So c6, queen b6, c7, queen f2.
Oh,
that's another idea. But rook c2 looks like it covers it, but
no, there's still a pawn on d3.
Oh, that's right.
Pawn c6,
yeah,
queen b6, threatening.
Gotta be the try. You infiltrate that way. It's crazy, huh?
What a nice move. Rook g5. I was going to say, do you go some setup move? Rook g5, rook h5 first. Rook g5 looks like the right one.
Looks like it. I think you have to opt for moves that give you the most checkmating chances, right? I like rook t5 makes more sense because you have queen a1 in case white takes on d3. Just more chances. But this is what I was going to say as an overall concept to Dragos is when your opponent's in time pressure, the best thing for you to do is not play fast. It's to play good moves.
Right.
And another trick I was taught when your opponent is very low on time, plan a sequence of moves, like a combination, and then it's boom, 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 and then they have to wait and think. Instead of just play a move fast, think. Play a move fast, and kind of just exchanging blows like that. But
while we're on this, I just want to update our viewers. We have another match score. Akshita Gorti came back and won her game. So what we have now is we have a 3-1 overall match score. There were a couple other decisive results which came in, which I will get to. I think we should maybe stay with this position, though, because it's interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't leaving this. I think this is just too interesting. We've done enough analysis already. Uh, I'm not really sure what white is supposed to do here. I think this is where you just have to go into the think tank and try whatever you can. By the way, there could be like some bishop f7 shots at the right moment, kind of either forcing the king out from hiding, or if it has to go to h8, that allows variations where the rook is unprotected on f8. So I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas here, so not anything specific, but I think after rook g5, it's not so easy for white to figure out what to do. I might even go h4 with the tempo.
So US scores 2 more I mean, our match point score is phenomenal here. We actually win 2 more boards, if I'm looking at this correctly. Board 6 and board 7. Riang Yan defeats Malina Andrea Asiu in the girls under 18, 1.5 to 1/2. And FIDE Master Aydin Turgut defeats FIDE Master Mine Yonat Ognan on board 7, again by a score of 1.5 to 1.5. So that's just straight up 2 more match points in favor of US. We continue to dominate the decided match score. However, as those of you who've been following along with us for a while know, a lot of the outstanding results are not looking great. We're down a point in a lot of the outstanding results. We have a 5-1 match lead, and look, here was queen b6 and queen f2. Something bad happened there, though. Now white has recovered. So let's go through that. Can you take us through?
No. I don't agree with something bad has happened. No. Black has completely neutralized the problem now. You only have one pass pawn, and you can. I think worst case scenario, this is a draw for black, because you're just going to be able to stop that b pawn.
And you can't. Right. That bishop is probably strong enough. The bishop and pawn, anchored bishop on d5, pawn on b7, are probably strong enough to secure a draw, but nothing more. Right?
Yeah, so I think a draw is the most likely result here. If I'm white, I would probably try to set up some tactic where I can get my bishop to c8 and blockade the rook from guarding b8. And it's funny, I think I had some endgame against Dimitar like this in Chicago Open, actually, and it ended in a draw. So not exactly sure of the position, but something like that.
So some bad news as the results are coming in fast now. Romania picks up a match point. One of those boards that we had discussed earlier, where there are a lot of boards where we are behind. There are a lot of boards where we lost our first game if we're Team USA, and unfortunately, Anne-Marie Vallet was not able to equalize the match. She only managed to draw in the second game. So Romania picks up a match point against us. The score is now 5-2, still in our favor by 3 match points. But we have a lot of outstanding games where we need a point to equalize. And what do you got? What do we got here? Sticking with this game?
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at my other computer too. Yeah, for now. I mean, I can go back and forth. I think, though, black is perfectly fine. I predict black could even win this game now. With the queen here and the rook in this situation, black has winning chances, or at least Dimitar does, because of white's king. And if black is able to play, just get the king on g7 and maybe f5 ideas, the rook can have an active role on the f file and also guard b8. So I think it's totally black who's in the driver's seat here. I think black gets a minimum draw, and there's sort of a coin flip chance of getting a win, especially with the low time for white now. Dimitar
although Dimitar's time, he's been living on the increment for a while here.
Yeah, but I think this is one of these positions where you can play non-losing moves and quickly. So I think minimum draw for black. I'm going to go out on a limb and say black actually takes the full point here.
Really? You don't think the pressure is enough for white to hold this?
I think black just has full control over that b8 square, and black has chances to create some threats on white's king by marching those pawns.
Do we even consider like king g7? Okay, so this is interesting. I was about to say maybe the black queen wants to sit on f4 and the king goes to h6. Yeah, so maybe now you play g5. I was going to actually even see if black should have played queen f4 if white did not take that away.
So another trick in these positions, especially with an increment, is you can play a few moves quickly, and then boom, you gain 15, 20 seconds. Like, play a couple checks, repeat, this is even more valuable in increment because that's 15, 20 seconds you're going to get depending on how long it takes you to move. And there we go, you see it.
Yeah.
Just a quick check and then goes back.
Now he'll
and
go to B2 probably.
Yeah. And I don't think Dimitar should trade queens.
No, the weakness of the white king seems important. King G7 here, maybe.
King G7, I'm not really sure best way to do this. This is hard to calculate. I mean, I'm just kind of relying on my instincts at this point.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of that check sequence because he allowed white to get F4 essentially with tempo. And I don't know that was necessarily ideal. I kind of like the move G5 that we were looking at, because now, I mean, there's a very double-edged possibility here. I don't think white wants to do it, but E5 is a move you should at least think about, because first of all, it introduces E6 in some positions, which could be very dangerous. And second of all, it cuts yeah, there he goes. He does it. Wow, really double-edged. And second, it cuts the black queen off from covering squares near the king. Yes, and the bishop is going to try to live on F3. I was wondering if we should do E5. The problem now is definitely there's a lot of losing chances for white as well.
Yeah, I think it could have been a poor practical choice for Dragos, but hey, maybe it's Dragos who's thinking I'll play for the win.
F5 now is maybe.
But here's the problem, right? There's gonna be ideas like
he goes F5.
Ooh,
H4 check, King G2, Rook D2. What's happening here?
Ooh, oh man.
Maybe you try to live with the king on H3.
Wow, this is crazy. Pretty fun game. And Volcano Explorer, that game ended in a draw, so he took home the match.
He did, yep.
And then Happy Farmer, that game looks like it's still going on. And
I think we should stick here. This is going to be a really exciting time pressure finish. They're both living off the increment. Yeah, and this is why I wanted to play E5, introducing that second pass pawn with pawn E6.
Yeah, I don't agree with this, though, for white. I think the problem with this is black just
take rook E8, and then that's... But you can never take on E6, though, because there's promotion. I guess you could take with the rook. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were going to say?
Yeah, again, I just think it's just too easy for black, I thought, to blockade, but maybe not.
Will, do I have a tactic here? If you go rook E8, do I have bishop C6? Is that too crazy to work? Queen takes C6, queen E5 check, and then promote on B8?
Well, we're going to find out.
Actually, what about just even E7 here? E7, if you take it, I do some combination of take and then promote. I don't like this check. Although maybe he wants queen... Yeah, queen C8. I was maybe he wants queen C8.
I think...
What do you do now? Queen B8 only move?
Wow. Yeah, queen B8 only move. I expect Dimitar to find it. Or actually, queen F8 also works.
Queen F8 picking up the tempo on the bishop.
This move also works. Rook F8. Oh, no, E7 maybe? Oh, but Rook
E7, Rook F3 is check. What? Wow, this is going to be an insane finish, I can tell already. I think I preferred queen F8, though, right? Because queen F8 threatened to go rook takes C8, as well as picking up the tempo on F3. Very nice spot by you in short time. Queen F8, I think, was the preferable move.
Yeah, no, I saw a few defensive ideas there for black, but I expected Dimitar to find this.
Queen F4 now?
Maybe? You have to play this, I think.
Queen F4.
Oh, well, you're playing for mate. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I just want to checkmate.
Wow, what in the world? I like this move.
But hold on, now is E7 on the menu.
That's fine, because black
just takes it. And then on B8 queen, you take one of the queens and you take the bishop, right?
Yeah, that's simple.
Yeah, this is why I like queen F4, though. Now all of the squares, queen F4 and queen A3, are both covered.
Man, this is tricky stuff.
Amadeus Burrito, this is on playchess.com, which is a server we're not too familiar with, which is why we're not able to analyze as well as we'd really like to. Is this going to be a draw, queen C1 to C8? Does he dare play G5? It introduces G4 check, and if you go king H4, queen E7 is good game. Yeah, this is a draw, queen C8, right? That's a draw.
See, I don't think that is a bad choice for either side. And kind of going
Mhm.
back to the team perspective, they know that, hey, I could play for a win, but I don't see it. So there's no reason to jump out of the window if you
Sure.
just see some smoke,
So
right?
really exciting draw. That's a 2 draws. That means a tied match between these two. So let me
Right. So
update our score here.
it's four tied. I'm gonna try to pull up whatever games are remaining. I'm gonna see if I can refresh this somehow. Okay, is there anything in progress? Let's see. All right.
Very exciting finish there.
Let me pull up more games.
Amadeus Burrito, great username. This is on playchess.com server, which is the chess-based playing server.
And
Unfortunately,
welcome,
as you've
Amadeus
noticed.
Burrito. He's controlling the chat, though. I mean, I could type from my dynamic chess. Oh, there we go. Okay.
While you're pulling up a game, Will, I'm going to double check our scores to see if we have any updates.
I'm going to try to tune into some games I haven't seen. I just keep seeing results unless I have to kind of
Board
refresh.
11. We do have an update. Board 11. Board 11 was a loss. So Ilinka Petra Batagan defeated Zoe Tang in their mini match 2-0. So board 11 goes to Romania, one of those boards that we were behind on after the first round. Those boards are starting to come home for Team Romania, and they are catching up on the scoreboard. 5.5 to 3.5 current match score.
So the only two games that I could find that are in progress are the ones between Ipoli and the Happy Farmer and Murcia Talu and Sis. Now, let me know if that's not correct, but I refreshed the page of the in progress games, and that's what I got.
I believe that's correct. So we're only looking at right now the U18 and U16 section. And those are the only two remaining games in the U18 and U16 section. We have a lot of games in the U14, U12 section, which maybe we can get to. But let's stick with the older kids for now because these seem to be finishing sooner.
Yeah, so it looks like Annie's doing a decent job of trying to hold this position for black. I mean, the material is, I mean, she's down a pawn and an exchange, but I always find these a little difficult to win with white. I mean, fine, you're up an exchange, but what's the obvious winning plan? I think rook e7, rook g7
Yeah, I was going to
has
say rook e7, right?
but knight f5.
But then I play something like rook a7 and ask black to make a move.
Yeah, I think you just do that. You try to keep up the pressure. So probably knight f5, rook g8, king f7. G6 could be on the menu potentially at some point. But no, you just bring the rook to a8. This is the idea, kind of what you were talking about. I mean, black should be losing for sure. But I like the finesse rook g8. Yes, that's what she played. And then here, I think you can go just rook a8 at the idea of rook a7. But again, Pete, where do you go after like rook a7 and king g6? I think this is an issue.
Well, that's the thing. I want to just put the rook on a7 with black to play and ask them to make a move. What move do you play?
They can. The knight can always. I think the rook.
No, not with the rook on a7 because then I'll play rook g7 check. So this is the wrong square for the white rook. The white rook should go sit on a7, and then just politely ask black to make a move.
Okay.
And maybe they can. Maybe they just put their rook somewhere, like rook e6 or something, right? And then how do we finish that off?
Yeah, I don't see the clear path for white. I just think that you could try to create some extra pass pawn. One idea is to try to trade with rook f6, but I don't think I would do that yet. I think white might intend to go rook f1 with the idea of rook f1, the knight moves rook g8, king h5, and then rook h1. Tricky idea here.
And then pawn g6, and you're breaking through.
I mean, there could be mate even, right? So let's say here, suppose it's white to move again. You have rook f1. Knight e3 would be losing in view of rook g8, king h5, rook h1. So you'd almost have to go rook g3 there. So, okay, white's coming in with a threat here for sure. All right, let me tune into another game. This is between Murcia and Talu. Let me find what games these are. Okay, this is Christopher Shen. He's black in this game versus Murcia Talu. That's his actual real name from Romania. and he's white in this position. What happened in game one between these two?
I was just looking at that. So, Murcia Toulouse versus who's his opponent?
Yeah, he won that
He did.
like 88 move endgame, right?
Correct.
And here looks like Daniel, or not Daniel, Christopher. He is. Yeah, he's down a queen here.
So what has he got for the queen? He's only got a knight and a rook, but the rook is very active. Is it enough?
I think he has compensation. It's legitimate. It's definitely legitimate. I mean, he's probably a little worse, but especially
the knight on f4 is very nice.
Time. 30 seconds. I mean, that's not easy to handle.
Can I play h4 now? Probably not, because I just play h6 and then the g4 pawn is under attack.
I mean, what do you do here?
Especially in time. Is there bishop f8 to c5 now? Bishop f8, maybe this is the point of bishop c3. Bishop f8, he wants to go b4 and maybe even pawn c5. So bishop f1
it's also reasonable for black to go knight g6 and just go after e5. And then, you know, in ideas of like queen e2, you go rook c1, and you might actually go rook c3 and bishop e5. So I'm looking at ideas like this. I would almost prefer to be black in this scenario, just because it's hard for white to calculate all these little things quickly. Oh, and this is the type of tactic I was talking about with Annie's game.
Here it is, yeah.
Yeah, and basically it's lights out after rook h1, king g4, g6.
G6 is
maybe
the finishing move.
Knight h6 there, though. And then you can't take because rook e1 is coming. But then you take on h7. Okay, no, it's winning for white. So here, the line I wanted to talk about was rook h1, king g4, g6, knight h6, and just...
You just take h7, yeah.
Yeah, and you ignore it. Oh, black should be lost here. I don't think black should have allowed all this, but objectively speaking, I thought she was lost from the earlier parts in the opening where I was kind of... I was against the early trades, right?
And this was also the game where we think maybe allowing e5 was an oversight because of the queen takes e5, bishop f4, queen trap.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with your assessment in that situation. So g6, of course, the idea is if takes here, just h7, and if you go knight h6, also gh7. So I think it's almost lights out. So king 8. Wait a minute, king h6, rook check.
King h6. Actually, I think I might even take on h7 first.
No,
rook check. Rook check is, of course, winning on the spot, and then you take on h7. Yeah.
Well, look at this position here, Murcia. I'm going to go back to this.
Okay.
So I think white is just going to take home the point in that position.
I agree.
So I think this is a little bit more compelling.
Okay, so how does white break this down?
I was about to say that. This is the issue. Imagine if us as spectators and people who have time to analyze the game, we can't find a direct win for white. Good luck, Murcia, with 10 seconds on your clock. Good luck. I mean, this is just so difficult to try to unravel from. Yeah, and again, like, you just create these little threats, and when you have a time advantage, your opponent just might pre-move or make some hasty blunder. So I think rook c1 is what I would go with here. Okay, he played
That's the move I liked, yeah, because the bishop on c5 is very good, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Queen a8 is introduced now. So maybe we go... Where do we put that king to make sure that queen a8 is not a check? It has to be g7, because otherwise you just open up queen a4, right? If you go
h7.
I
think king g7 is the only move that makes sense.
So he goes back.
Oh, really?
Maybe he's playing a bit on the clock here, but I'm not a huge fan. I might have even gone for bishop c5, queen a8, king g7, and asked.
Well, the rook was hanging, right?
Minor technical detail. Now we play bishop c5, right?
But see, this is why I don't like this route, because, you know, I don't want to introduce any situations where white can trade. I think it's essential that black goes after the e5 pawn again.
Right, because this earlier he could not retreat that bishop to attack the knight on f4, which is I think where he's headed, because just simply bishop takes e5.
Ooh,
oh
bishop.
Wow, okay.
No, do not trade here. Definitely not. I think you gotta keep the position alive. Now remember, though,
that was a gift to white. I think I really do.
But I think we have to remember the match situation. Christopher is in a must-win. situation. A draw does him no good. He lost
Mhm.
game one, so he's just trying to equalize the match. Now, I think the rook and knight are at least equal in this situation.
The bishop
But
on f1 is particularly bad.
yeah, I mean, but what if you can go bishop f3, bishop e4, bishop f5, and then they can unravel. Once white starts to unravel, things get a little dangerous. And then if white's ever able to get the queen over to b6 and then c5, b4 fall, it's just
Right. I really dislike that bishop trade. I really dislike that bishop trade.
you've got to keep pieces on the board. Even objectively, if it's not the best, you need to keep more tactical chances alive and more ways for your opponent to go wrong.
I think his thinking was if that bishop comes off, the knight on f4 is a forever knight, right? If the bishop comes off, the knight on f4 just sits there forever and ever, and you can't do anything about it. But
yeah, but he also can't do anything. He needs to win the game, and this is my problem.
Okay, do we have rook d1 now? If you play bishop back to e2, there's rook e1.
Ooh,
so rook
nice.
d1, you have to play something like what? Queen f2?
Ooh.
King f2? Rook d1 now? Yeah, there it is. Rook d1.
It's so easy to go wrong here. But look at this. These guys are sharp. Queen f2 right away. Look at that. These guys are sharp.
Now what is there?
Maybe rook c1, rook c3 ideas is what I'm thinking. And you don't want to move that bishop. Ooh. Ooh,
yeah,
man.
he wanted bishop c6, actually.
Oh, rook g1. Rook g1. Rook g1 is an idea.
Oh, wow. But hold on. You just take it.
Draw, though. That's the problem.
You just take it on rook g1. You just
and then knight e2, king f2, it's just a draw.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is where I was thinking, you just
Is it a draw, though, actually? If I go rook g1, is it a draw?
I mean, probably. It's hard to calculate that endgame, though, with this amount
All
of
the
time.
white pawns on a2, b3, c4, and the white bishop. Black maybe has a little bit of something.
I agree. Some b5 ideas or bishop c4 sacrifices. Yeah, this is just, I'm going to be objective here. It's hard to calculate.
I was going to say, which color would you rather be? Would you rather be white, constantly worried about the knight on f4, or would you rather be black, constantly worried about the queen, right? Like, which side is less annoying to play in this position?
Probably black, but I think, like, black can just try to go for the win and easily mess up, too.
Right.
This is the issue.
Wow, he is going for the win. Look, very, very smart match play here by FM Christopher Shen. He knows the situation. He knows he's got to win to help the team, so he goes for it. Really love his fighting spirit here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, though, my one criticism is you should have kept that bishop on the board. I still stand by that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And here's what I was worried about. So now there is... now there are some things black has to worry about.
H6 ideas. Huh?
It felt like black was playing pretty safely for a while, but now that is no longer the case. This is not a safe position for anybody. Exactly. H6. Queen G3 at some point. Queen C2 he's introducing now.
Just bishop f5.
Bishop f5, I'll take it.
Oh, oops. Bishop e6.
Minor technical.
That's what I meant. Wrong square roll.
Queen c2 is a major threat here, right? I mean, I guess you can play rook d3. So you play bishop e6, queen c2, rook d3. Actually, no. I play bishop d7, I think. Bishop d7, and my point is on queen c2, I play rook d3. And if you discover attack, then I play rook h3.
Look at this move, though. Intending to meet bishop c2 with perhaps bishop to e4.
Bishop e4, yeah. So my idea of bishop d7 was actually to get on this diagonal, the g2 diagonal. He just says, no, I don't need to go bishop d7 to c6. I'm just going to go bishop g2. I'm on the diagonal right away. I really like this, actually.
Ooh, Murtia got down to 1.5 seconds. So I think if black's going to win, it's going to be
right now.
A factor of time as well.
So bishop. Oh wow! Look at this. Rook h1 is on the realm. In the realm. What am I looking for here? On the menu. There we go. Yes. Rook h1, rook h3. No, h3's covered. Sorry. Rook h1, king g3. Now where's the move?
Rook h5, knight h5. I don't know.
Where's the finisher? I feel like there's like some kind of finisher here.
Wow, this is interesting technique by
Don't you feel like there's a finisher somewhere here? E6, exactly. Gotta pry
Necessary.
it open. Rook, you don't have rook g1. Do you just take that?
You go knight h5 probably.
Do I go
with a
rook,
check.
knight h5, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I suspect.
Rook
And,
h2.
yeah, you have to go rook h2 because it's with the tempo. Very important.
Although the rook is defended where it is, so maybe we leave it alone and play something like what? And there's rook h2.
Yeah, I think you need this counterplay though. And then the whole point is you have e8 covered, right?
So
With
I
your
go
bishop.
knight f4, right? After
Yeah, you
king
need
e1, knight f4.
Exactly. This is what I wanted to do. This is what I was calculating. Rook h2. Maybe king f1 is better. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do we... It felt like black missed a chance somewhere. Didn't it to you? Like, there was all this nice pressure, but now how do you...
Mm-hmm.
And now that e-pawn is just such a thorn in white's side. And he cannot accept a draw here. A draw loses the match.
And Murcia wisely understands that.
Mm-hmm. Happy to repeat.
I think you just go knight f4 and you got to go for it here. There's some... He cannot take the draw here. Come on.
Ani Wang did lose her game, so that's another point for Romania.
Yeah, I think that was obvious that was going to happen. Ooh, what's going on
This is
here?
not good. The queen is getting very active. And you cannot go f6, queen c7 check. This might be very bad for Team USA.
Well, I still think that bishop is going to hang, right? Yeah, it's still hanging, no matter what, I thought.
And where's the counterplay? There's no counterplay.
No.
You don't have enough.
No, but this is why, like, I
Trading that dark square bishop, I think, is where it went wrong.
keeping the bishop was essential. I want to go back to that and analyze that.
You can even just play queen take b6 here, yeah. So black is going to lose this, unfortunately. Let me update the match score to reflect two results, actually. So Ani Wang lost her game and the match.
Oh, look at that! Oh, look at that!
What did I miss? What did I miss?
Oh, yes!
Oh, wow!
Oh my goodness!
Wow! And
it
now
happened. It happened.
It's
Folks,
still.
This
Oh
is
my goodness!
Over, and that's why they say keep knights on the board. Knights are the trickiest pieces. Home run! Yeah.
Wow! Rook c3, and if he goes king b2, you have knight d3 anyway.
Oh man, I thought king d2 was necessary.
Right. No, I mean after king b1, rook c1. If he goes king b2, you have rook c2.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying here though, you got to go king d2. I mean, it's easier said than done, but now black is going to win probably.
Wow. King comes to e5, and the pawns are all frozen on the queen side.
Wow, what a tactic! That's
what a turnaround.
That's got to go in your article, Pete.
And with time on his clock too, he actually got some time back with the increment and still missed that shot. If this wins the US the match, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's gross.
Okay, so I was updating some results. Ani Wang lost her game, and we had a result in, I think it's the board 1 in the U10. Anshul Shetty defeated Robert Sava. Now I need to see what happened in round 1 between those two. Okay, so that just equalized the match. So a half a point for US from that match. If I'm reading that correctly. I'll just double check. Yeah, half a point for the US in that match and a full point for Romania from the Ani Wang loss. Let's update that. So the match is again tightening. We're gonna have a score right now with a bunch of games still outstanding, but it's gonna be 6-5 in match points. And the users can see my horrible ability to update the match score. There we go. 6-5 in favor of the US. The match score ever tightening. If Christopher Shen can hold on here and pull a victory from the jaws of defeat, that will help. I still don't know if this is a win, though. Yeah, his king belonged on e5, I think, not the pawn.
So what's going on? I guess we'll figure out what happened with the younger crowd.
Yeah, so probably the top game to look at there. That's still going. We can go to tournament room 1 to check those games out.
Okay, I wonder if there's going to be an issue though if I try to flip over.
Almost certainly. Yeah, and just pick a game. Pick a game from there.
Okay, so we're gonna leave. We're just gonna leave this the Murcia Talu game. I don't know if I'll
win this.
I don't know if I'll be able to keep that up simultaneously. So you got to let me know what you want to do there.
You leave that up and just go. So what you should be able to do is you should be able to go to your play chess server. Well, now I just see you. You didn't leave that up.
Well, I did leave it up. I was going to the first Romania.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Anytime I go from 1 to 2, I can't control that. So.
And you'll have to just bring up the games in progress. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the problems with streaming via Play Chess server. Unfortunately, it doesn't just let us leave a board up. It resizes as soon as we tab away.
So which game do you want me to take a look at?
Just pull up a couple. Pull up a couple and let's see what we got.
All right, let me refresh this, see which games we have in progress. Top games left. Yeah, E-Poli. Oh, we have another E-Poli. Okay. In progress, and then this one. Okay. So I pulled up a few games here. Not sure. Let's see. Oh, I need to screen share again. Make sure. Okay. How's that? We're good?
You're good. I got it back up.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to look at who's who. E-Poli.
So this is Genius Null.
Well, of course we have 2 E-Polis.
Right, so this should be Stephanie Valet in the U14 girls versus Anicia Spiridon, which is E-Poli 602.
Not to be confused with E-Poli 639.
Right, not to be confused, correct. And let's check in on the match score of this game to see what the match situation is. So in round 1, this is board 18 overall. U14 girls. There was a draw in round 1, so if anybody pulls out a win here, they win the match point. And that's going to be a really important one. These equal matches where one side or the other can pull ahead are going to really matter a lot. What is happening, Will? What do you see here? Is there knights on knight D3?
It looks like black is winning already. Move like knight D3. You can't go king B1. You have to go king D2 or king B1, knight F2. And then the worst thing is the other knight is going to join the battle. The knights are going to get to F2, E4, all that good stuff. White's king has no safe shelter. I think this should be a wrap. This is, though, I mean, we're not talking about 2400. So in fairness, I think especially when you talk about younger ages and you talk about lower rated boards, there's more that can go wrong. Right. But I still imagine that black's going to take home the full point here. Let's see if they find the move knight D3. But also, I don't know how these players fare under time pressure. So, there's multiple factors still at play here. And then there's this other game, Evan Park versus Dan BT. Let me pull this up. And who would this be?
So, no surprise here. Evan Park is Evan Park from Team USA U14 Boys. Dan BNT is Dan Bantescu from Romania. Saw that too. Okay,
so it's Evan versus Dan. Those are their names. Okay,
there you go.
Easier. I would say already the way I evaluate this position, White has the bishop pair, but also notice they're even in pawns, but it's really 3 against 2. So it's like these F pawns are just 1 pawn. So it just feels like White is up a pawn with a bishop pair. And White's just going to try to create a passed pawn with b4, b5, c6. Black's play is probably going to aim at playing the move f4 and trying to nullify this dark squared bishop. But I think
But we
bishop,
go bishop d6 here, right?
yeah, and it's sort of like a mini domination of the knight, even though the knight can return with knight e7. But I think in the event that this bishop becomes a problem, you can draw it back to h2 or g3 at the right moment.
I'm thinking you'll play knight h4. So if bishop d6, knight h4 is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably the best practical choice. But knight h4, I think there, I don't mind going bishop to d5.
But can I take and go queen c6? Or is that, you'll just go other rook to d1 and there's nothing?
Yeah.
But then maybe I go rook e1 check?
Well, I was actually going to say queen d2. That was my first choice.
Knight h4 is like a little annoying here, right?
Oh, I agree. I think it's the only way to play.
If you go knight h4, the point is, so if you go knight h4 and white just plays some more straightforward move like bishop e2, then queen c6 comes in, and it's not, yeah, you'll have to play a really awkward move like f3, or I think f3 is like the only move there, right? Is there any other move to even defend mate that doesn't hang something?
Wow, it's letting me make moves now? What's going on? Now it's analysis mode? This is crazy. Okay.
So what happened in the game? He goes bishop d7? I don't like that.
Yeah. He's just trying to get rid of that bishop, but maybe it's knight h4 aimed at bishop c6 afterwards? Maybe? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Definitely not a fan of that at all. I'm wondering, is there any other games that I can put on the rotation here? Let's see. So this is just the under 14.
Just updating again the score. It's a very tight match in terms of board points. 6-5. USA with a 1-point lead. Yeah, I like knight h4 a lot better there for black, I think.
It says in progress, but yet the game is over. I don't think this likes to update properly on my end. All right, what about this JCB USCF Roby? All right, I have a third game pulled up. All right, we can try to figure out. Oops. Who's this? Or Robbie, probably. USCF Robbie or Roby. I don't know how you pronounce that.
So let me pull this up and we'll get the match situation. So this is Robert Yonu Kreanga versus Jonathan Chen. JCB USCF is Jonathan Chen. U14 boys, board 13. And let's see what happened in their first round. Board 13. Jonathan Chen lost. So US chess down a point here. We need a match point. We need a match point, or at least a draw, hopefully. So we need a win here, basically, from white. And I gotta say, I like white's position.
Yeah, I think
Bishop on h6 is a little awkward.
Say it again?
Bishop on h6 is a little awkward.
Yeah, actually, you might even snap that off at the right time. Because you're always worried about situations where you're trying to checkmate on g7, but somehow the knight can just get out and your bishop isn't so strong there sometimes, especially if there's no checkmate. But I think long-term, the principle of two weaknesses should come into effect here. Black's pawn on b6 on the open file, and the pawn on d6 is, standard weakness in the Benoni structures. But yeah, again, I don't like this bishop on h6. You might actually just snap off the knight at the right time. I don't know about this structure, though. I think g5 is one of the ideas. I kind of like the idea of bishop g7 and g5, but rook f1. I think that's what white might be playing for. All right, back to this game here, the E. Poli versus Genius Nail.
We did not see knight d3 check, did we? How did we get here? Let's go back a couple moves and try to figure out how we got from... It looks like she played rook c8 instead of knight d3 check.
Which is reasonable. I think...
Knight d3 looked like almost winning on the spot, though, right?
Yeah, I think it's just winning so many different ways, though, in fairness. Yeah, King...
Warm oatmeal chess. Yes, that is correct. My understanding is that there are only 2 games total. Check with the match organizer via the playchess.com server before you sign off for real. But
Oh, this
yes,
is
I believe so.
After knight c1, I think knight d3 could just be lights out. Queen c2 is also winning. Knight e6. Yeah, yeah. I think black is definitely showing me though that they're not handling this as accurately as I would have liked. I
Well,
thought
hold on a second though. Isn't this also winning because on queen d2 there's knight e4 and you can't stay connected to that?
No, it is, but this is just not the technique I would have liked.
Looks
You know,
pretty
you can kind
convincing
of
though,
tell.
right?
Say it again.
Looks convincing though, right? What do you do about rook takes c1? Queen d2, knight e4.
I'm being a bit harsh, aren't I?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is just outright winning, unless I'm missing some defense here. So the threat, of course, is that by moving the knight, we discover an attack from the rook on c8, hitting the knight down there on c1. That the black queen is also attacking, and the only move to save your queen here. So of course the knight is attacking the queen on d4. The only move to save the queen that also defends the knight on c1 is queen d2. Queen d3 just doesn't work. Rook takes c1, winning at minimum a piece. So queen d2, of course, also didn't work because knight e4. But now rook takes c1, winning at minimum a piece. I think you will not take the queen. After king e2 or king d2, I think we will play queen takes b2 check.
Yeah, and it's lights out there. So
you might even play knight takes f4 check first after king e2. I think you have to play king e2. King d2 is just mate after queen takes b2. So king e2, maybe we even include knight takes f4 check. Pawn takes, and then you play queen takes b2. The point of taking the bishop with check first is that after queen takes b2, knight d2 is the only move. But then we probably have a number of wins. To me, the most attractive is rook c2 in that position.
And this is when it becomes a case of how do we want to win, not are we going to win.
Right, I think you're right. Okay, I'm going to try to update the match scores here because I know we had a lot more come in. Board 20. Eric Zhao won against Philip Magold. What happened in round 1 there? Let's see.
Yeah, I think this is tricky enough to do if there were, I don't know, maybe 10 boards and we were playing on a different server. But the fact that we're playing on Play Chess and there are 30 boards, it's not easy.
It's not easy, no. But US did pick up a match point on board 20. Eric Zhao won his match 2-0. I'm going to try to update other scores as they come in if we can. Okay, board 23. Sara Gupta lost to Alexia Andres. What happened in round 1 on board 23? Board 23, Sara Gupta won. So that's an evened score, a half point each. They split the games. Let's update that.
Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about, Pete. Like, I could just sense, look, in this game, black doesn't want to go into an end game just up a piece. Like, this is not... See, now I'm going to have to stand by kind of... When you sense...
Yeah, queen takes b2 was clearly the way to go there.
I know,
queen takes b2.
When you sense as a coach that that one side doesn't exactly know how to finish, you can just tell these things. Like, even going back...
to be fair, this is also completely winning, right?
It is, but, I mean, again...
Maybe they just viewed this as the simpler... Queen takes b2 here, though, and what do you even play? Queen takes b2, knight f4 check, rook c2, knight e4, and that should be...
Yeah, I think you got to keep queens on the board here, though. I think simplifying in this situation isn't the correct approach. But, if I'm white and I survived and I'm down a piece in this situation, I'm feeling there's a chance. And look at the time, too, Pete. I mean, I hate to kind of, be like a Nostradamus here, but, like, I have a feeling that this approach could come back to harm black.
So just another update. We won another game. Rohan Rajaram 2-0'd his match on board 26. So let's update that. US pulling back ahead slightly.
And this is this game between Evan and Dan, Evan Park.
Did knight h4 happen? Can we go back and see how we got here? I'm very curious.
I think these pieces were traded off. So he instead of going knight h4, he just opted for getting rid of that light squared bishop with this route. And it's knight versus bishop. And white has an extra pawn on the queen side. But, I really like Black's simple approach. And Black's basically saying, all right, I'm just going to go into a defensive shell, and it's going to be hard for you to create that pass pawn on the queen side. Maybe a6 and knight a7, ideas like that. Maybe a6, a4. It's not so easy to stop, actually, now that I think about it. I thought the rook was going to stay on the second rank. That would have made more sense. What happened here? Oh, king f1. No, you have to go rook c2 there. So I think this is a situation where Black should have just played rook c2 and kept the pressure on the second rank. So in the event of b4, you can simply go rook takes a2. At least, and then keeping the rook here on c2 or a2. You have
keeping it active, very important.
Yeah, because maybe the other rook will come down to e2, and then at a minimum, you have a draw. So I think that was one idea, except the bishop did guard h2 and chances of those perpetual checks, but still. I think that was kind of mandatory. But anyway, after take on b5, what's going on here? Yeah, defensive shell. Maybe rook bc1 and c6 seems to be the play here.
So another result just came in. Rachel Lee won both her games on board 28. So U.S. picks up another point on board 28. Will, one encouraging thing is that we're the first team to reach double digits. But another encouraging thing is that we have caught up on a couple of boards where we lost the first round. We came back to win the second round and equalize those boards, very importantly, which helps out our cause. Now, let's see here. Board 30, we lost. What happened in round 1 on board 30? Yeah, just a draw. So board 30, Romania picks up a point there.
And just as a reminder, to win as a team, we need 15 and a half team matches, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct, that's correct. And after the first round, our board points, we lost the first round on board points 17-13 in favor of Romania. Round 2, however, we're storming back. We are currently ahead in round 2, 15.5-16.5. And another decisive result just came in on board 14. I'm trying to pick that up and update it. Board 14 looks like another situation that we just talked about, where we lost the first round but came back and won the second round. Rushan Mahajan managed to win round 2 against Andre Philip, who he lost to in the first game. So U.S. equalizes that board point and picks up another half point there. Very critical to pick up all those half points, as many as we can get. Update that score for all of the viewers.
So, like I said, this is a situation where we were in the back seat, but yet in the driver's seat. See, I told you.
Yes, look, you were right. I guess I really can't argue with that.
Somehow. We have a for the dramatic, especially being from the United States. It's just what we do. Oh, and look at this. Evan Park, victorious in his game. I don't know what the result of their first game was. So
that knight's just trapped there, isn't it? Yeah, let's pick up that result. So round 1, Evan Park. That was a draw. So this is another match point going to Team USA. Man, we are really, truly storming back in the second round.
We're backseat drivers.
Backseat drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, and here the knight's not technically trapped. We have knight f7, but I think after white scoops up the b7 pawn, its friends B and C are going to be a little too strong here.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Knight f7 and then rook b7.
And this game, okay, so this was also when Genius Nail proving me wrong that their technique was perfectly fine. But like,
so hold on, where was the Genius Nail game?
I'm gonna pull that up in a moment.
I don't think I caught that result. So
Genius Nail, I just saw that was a victory for Black.
Okay, great. So that means on board 18, Stephanie Valle wins her match because that was a round 1 draw. Wow, great job, Stephanie. So U.S. picks up another board point. We're only 3 match points away from getting the score we need to win.
So again, here's the team perspective, right? You want to keep track of the rest of the games and say, all right, in a situation where you think all the matches are pretty close, if you feel that your team is clearly ahead and you're going to tie your match, tying your match is okay. because you're just keeping your advantage. But as soon as you start giving away your team match, that's when it can become a problem. So let's say you drew game one, game two draw is okay, especially if you're the United States, because your team is in the driver's seat, I think.
We actually just picked up another board point as you were saying that, so even more in the driver's seat now. Let me pull the board up again where it would happen. Board 21, Sriram Krishna Kumar won his mini match 2-0 over Matej Andrei Koitchev. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. So US picks up another board point on board 21. We are now only 2 points away from a match win against Romania. I feel like we need some confetti to throw. Like, have you got any confetti that we could just toss into the air in the background there?
And I'm trying to pull up some games that I haven't pulled up yet. So I've got Chess Queen versus Sokin Ariana.
Okay, let's see who that is. So that is for US, this is U14 girls. It's Nune Kachatran is the US player on that board against Ariana Roxana Hyokin from Romania. And if you'll give me a moment.
Ooh, and we have an interesting situation.
I'll pull up the match score if you give me just a moment.
I think black has a minimum draw here. White cannot go queen g3 due to knight f1.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nune won her first round, so all white needs is a draw.
So that's fine. This is perfect because she doesn't have to play for a win here. Yeah, and then king h2. So this is where it wouldn't make sense for black. See, black should not go for the draw here. That I would never do that.
But what can you do, right? Because queen e8 to h5 is also draw by perpetual, correct?
I suppose. But you know what? My theory is this. I would rather take that.
Was that the third repetition? Yeah, that was. So there's the draw.
I would rather take that 1% chance that my opponent mouse slips or disconnects or whatever, right?
No, win by mouse slip. No, I agree.
In the spirit of the team match, I don't care if I don't care if I lose 1.5 to half or 2-0. It doesn't matter. I know that my team needs that no matter what, and I know it seems sort of like so unrealistic, but that's at least how I think. Like, it doesn't matter how outrageous you might have to play, because 0 is still 0 at the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. A draw is a loss in this situation. It's the same thing. So you might as well hope for some egregious error from your opponent.
So Romania does pick up a point. Of course, with this draw, US picks up a point. On board 16, Romania picks up a point. Oana Magdalena Shiopu defeats Natalie Wisniewski 1.5 to a half. Natalie drew her second round there. So Romania does pick up a point. Though, we are only 1 match point away from U.S. team victory. If my scoreboard is accurate here, and I believe it is, I've been trying to keep track as they come through. U.S. is only 1 point away. Do you see any games where we can pick that point up?
So this one just drew Large Crab versus Flat EC. We have Sofia Borisov versus Kirill Tori. I'm assuming that's Sofia versus Tori, but again, there are a bunch of names that I have to keep track of.
So this is Annika Rajaram, actually, versus Sofia Borisov.
Okay. So it only looks like there's 3 games that are active. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up all of those.
Okay.
Let's close that one. And
then that means I've got some results catching up to do. So let's see where we have missed some and not updated.
Well, maybe only 2 games.
Okay, Brian Z drew, so board 19.
Yeah, make sure you hit that refresh button. And maybe some of the players in the chat can tell us if we're missing anything.
So we had a draw on board 19. That means we are now half a point away. Half a point away from a complete match victory. By the way, this is an interesting note here. It really has been the tale of 2 halves. And I'll update you on what I mean by that as soon as I get this match score. So in the first round, Team USA was down 17-13 on board points. But then in round 2, the current score is 19-8 on board points. Just complete round 2 dominance here. And I'm trying to find the games where I missed a result here.
And Sofia Borisov, She only has 14 seconds here. Looks like has the winning chances with that pass deep on. But you don't want queens or rooks to come off here and go into a queen endgame. But
So Romania picks up a point on board 12, by the way. So the match is not... We could still draw the match. It hasn't been decided yet.
Wow.
Romania picks up a point on board 12. My score, I've got 15 points, board points to 10 board points. Although another result just came in, and if that's a win for US, then that's it.
I was going to say also that if we have 15 points and someone from US already had a point going into round 2, that's also an auto win because
that's a good point. That's a very good point. So I'm trying to find the game that I missed the result from.
Good luck.
Yes, thank you. Actually, that's a good point. It is a good luck situation. I have one missing result, and that could really change. That could really change the overall. Oh, I think we can declare. I think we can declare a U.S. victory. Let me double check on this. We can. We can declare a U.S. victory. And I'm going to just confirm that before I put it on the official scoreboard. Yeah, we can declare a U.S. victory. U.S. at bare minimum now has, if my scoreboard is correct, 15.5 points. Actually, we've had it for quite a while. The game I didn't update was Christopher Shin's comeback victory. So U.S. can declare victory in the match against Romania. Congratulations, Team USA. 15.5 points. The threshold has been reached. All other games now no longer can affect the final match score. Of course, they can still affect their individual match score between a win and a loss. But in terms of the overall match score, Romania now mathematically cannot catch us. The highest point total Romania can achieve in overall match points is 14.5.
Assuming your math is correct and you've added everything up correctly.
It's correct. It's correct.
I don't know, Pete. I don't know.
The current board points, by the way, if you're wondering, the current board points are 32 points for the USA and 25 for Team Romania. So on all the boards combined, it's 32-25 USA. That's reflected in our current lead, of course. Throw that scoreboard back up there one more time. 15.5 to 10.5. I show 3 games still outstanding. Is that correct, Will? Is that what you've got too?
I have only 2. I think the other game that you might have outstanding but already...
Borisov. What happened in that game?
Sofia Borisov. That's still going on.
Okay. So then I've also got Sophie Valet.
What's her name?
Let me pull up her username. Jumping to Victory. Is that game still going?
Jumping to... Yeah, I have that.
Okay. And then what about Jocelyn Chen? That's the 3rd game I've got up.
Okay. So that's the one that I don't have. And what are their usernames?
That is JCJC USCF versus Epoli639.
Yeah, that game already ended. So that's why I only had...
So what was the result there?
Black won that game.
Black... was that which player?
Epoli.
Okay, so that means that Romania picks up a board point there. Again, though, I believe that is irrelevant. Romania picks up a board point to reach 11.5, if my math remains correct. And another score that I missed here. US actually has 16.5, so we are now firmly in command of the match.
Sofia's game ended in a draw. Sofia versus Kirotori.
Okay, so let me update that.
We only have 1 game remaining.
Sofina, that's board 24, right? Sofia versus Annika.
I don't have a board number, but...
And that was a draw, you said?
Yeah, Sofia Borisov versus Kirotori Tori.
So both teams pick up a half point from that because round 1 was also drawn. So we are at a score of 17-12 with 1 outstanding game. The math adds up, Will. If I've recorded everything correctly, that's 29 total match points out of 30, and we have 1 game remaining. Mr. Aramil, what's happening in the final game?
So I would definitely say that White should be winning here, because if knight b1, knight c3, knight a4, that knight cannot properly defend b6. So
And there it goes. Yeah.
black has to bail out on some strategy of probably h5 and see. I don't agree with king g7. I thought you just had to bail out on b6 almost, but yeah, h5 like mandatory. You need some sort of counterplay. You can't just sit back here. I would say that white definitely in the back seat, driver's seat. Uh,
Right.
that's gonna be our new thing.
The
The
backseat
back,
driver's seat. Okay.
the
By the
back.
way, in this match, so let's just update the match score here. Sophie Valet down 1-0. Um, Sophie Valet down 1-0, and she is playing black here, so she actually needs a win to equalize the match, but it does not look like that's going to be possible.
Oh, jumping to victory.
Jumping to victory needs a win. Yeah, black needs a win to equalize the match.
Yeah, again though, I think the only chance you have to try something like h5 and knight h6 and g4.
Mm.
I just don't see any other way.
Yeah, now the b pawn falls.
Yeah, the pawns being gridlocked does not help at all. You have to just bail out on it, 100%. Only way to play.
You know, I think it's difficult for younger players sometimes to. I think that's a shot that comes with experience, like recognizing that I have to play h5 right now. You know, when you're learning and you're improving, you're thinking about how can I try to hold this position, and sometimes you just don't even consider the option of playing a pawn sack to try to get things moving. You know, but yeah, I think that this is now heavily in white's favor.
Someone in the chat, it's Stork USA, that it sounds like he had his setting to promote only to a bishop. Just one of the. Oh man, that'd be rough if that happened. Not in the Twitch chat, but in the.
Yeah, I was gonna ask which chat. I don't see that.
This is in the play chess chat. There we go.
Oh, that is pretty funny.
I mean, not for Stork USA.
Not for yeah. Always check your settings. You know, that's advice I give to my younger players when they participate in an online event. Before you participate in it, you should do two things. Number one, before anything else, you should log in and try to play some practice games, and get a feel for how the server works, what the board looks like, what the pieces look like. And then number two, you should always check your settings. Is pre-move set? Do you want it to be set? Is auto promote to queen set? Do you want it to auto promote to queen? Really important to always check your settings before you participate in an online event.
Yeah, Stork doesn't seem very happy about it.
No, not at all.
You know what? Hey, we won the team match. It wasn't rated.
Board
Use it
4
as a learning experience.
I'm curious what board 4 was. That was Annie Wang versus Baruna Daria Lahachi, if they're correct. Although,
well, who is Stork USA?
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know if
that is Natalie Wisnowski. That's board 16, not board 4. Although maybe it's board 4 in the U16, U14 section. U14 section, excuse me.
Oh, Natalie. Okay, I see.
So we'll leave that to the TDs to sort out. Of course, we are not the TDs. We are the broadcasters, commentators. It is interesting how sometimes that happens, especially when you're playing on a new server. Well, Will, honestly, I think we can pretty much wrap up because I'll throw the scoreboard back up there. Romania cannot catch us. We're up 5 match points with only one game still out there to be decided. Any final thoughts or ideas on comments on how the match went and what you saw?
Well, I first of all, I'd like to, thank all these young players for playing, and I think sometimes the younger players can feel the pressure of something like this. Just understand it's just, like an exhibition match. Nothing was at stake per se. So, obviously it's nice to get the win. It's nice to contribute. But don't forget, everyone's participation helped, even in a loss, because sometimes by certain players joining, that pushed everyone down a board, for example, or by keeping your games in play longer, it gives the team more chances and flexibility. Because sometimes when you lose your games quickly and your team is behind, it puts other players in a rough spot, and there's more psychological pressure that way. So And here we just have the final game concluding.
Yeah, so we'll get that final score up there as you're.
So yeah, I think it's a little easier when there's 30 boards, but imagine you're playing team chess and there's only 4 boards or there's only 8 boards. So this is probably as easy as it's gonna get from a team perspective with so many boards and just so many variables. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And just understand that when you are playing on a team, that playing positions where you're not going all in, it's usually the best way to play, just where you have options. That's what one of my biggest learning points as a coach and someone who's been part, again, of team chess and high school team chess for 17 years as a player and coach. So half my life, exactly. So do the math. And actually, we scored 17, right?
If I've got my standings correct, and I'm trying to confirm that now, but yes, and you can see I posted in chat the link to the final standings. The final board point score. So all of the games have been completed now. We can give this out. Team USA managed to score 32.5 board points. Team Romania scored 27.5 board points.
Adds up to 60, yeah.
And the match totals here, Team USA with 17 and Team Romania with only 13. Really well played match. Will, I thought what I was impressed by was just the fighting spirit of these young players. You know, you're representing your country in an international friendly match, and they all came to play. And of course, in a game of chess, what matters most is having a good time, enjoying yourself. And I think, from what I've seen in the chat, I think most of them did. So that's really great and fantastic to see.
Yeah, I think it's always fun to see these types of matches, and just me playing in one. It wasn't an under tournament with kids, but even though I played a kid, I think I played one of the a junior superstar from Ireland. So that was pretty fun. And by the way, I think everything's sort of symbolic here. You have 17 points. This is an under 18 event, right? So nothing could go 18 and over in this event. So even
right. You can't go above 18 with your team score. That was in the rules pre-event.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I'm just seeing these weird little parallels. And then like I said, I was coaching and playing for 17 years. Just think it's funny that things are hitting the number 17.
It was meant to be, Will. It was destiny.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. Well, audience, thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Team USA does end up taking home the match victory. Will, this is 2 in a row. We defeated Ireland in an open international friendly 2 weeks ago. That was not a Scholastic one. That was just adults. There were a few Scholastic players, I believe. And now, 2 weeks later, we managed to bring home the match victory versus Romania. I am excited. Great job. Congratulations to our young players. Thank you to the organizers in Romania. I know they worked very hard to put this together. We certainly appreciate it. And anytime I think that they want to do a rematch, we'd be happy to provide another team. So thank you very much to the Romanian team and organizers. Very well played. We enjoyed it. Any final comments before we head off here, Will?
No, I think I'm going to share the same sentiments as you. Just thanks for playing. Thanks for having me back.
Of course.
Being the Robin to your Batman, as I've always said. You're the first one who got me into streaming and all that, dating back to the 2018 U.S. Open and then the National K-12 in Orlando the same year.
Right.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me play again in the Ireland match and here now as a commentator. So can I say that you and I were the only two that were involved in both matches thus far?
I believe that's true.
Common thread, right?
That's true. I'm
just saying. So if one of us isn't involved in the next match, and then
Team USA loses, clearly we know what the problem was.
I'm just putting that out there. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. Well, William Aramil, again, National Master William Aramil from Dynamic Chess. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Signing off for myself. National Master Pete Karagianis from US Chess. Thank you all again for watching. Keep in touch with us on social media at US Chess on Twitter, Instagram, and of course twitch.tv/US Chess. Give us a follow, give us a like. If you follow us, you'll be notified when we go live next time for our next broadcast. I know coming up we have the Scholastic Invitationals, Denker, Barber, Herring, Weirmantry, so keep an eye out for those. And until next time, we will see you later.